I think somebody actually set this up and got us in. I think Sherry took care of that. So anyways, sorry for the technical difficulties. I'm going to open the 7 o'clock meeting for May 27th of the Wakefield Conservation Commission. We will take roll call. And Ken.
Here.
Jimmy.
Here.
Teresa.
Yeah.
Peter.
Here.
Savannah. I see her, but you're muted.
Okay, yes, sorry. Yes, here.
All right, first up is the approval of the minutes from May 13th. Everybody have a chance to look at them, and if so, are there any comments?
I move to approve the minutes.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, polling individually. Jimmy,
Oh, yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Peter, Peter,
Yes.
Teresa,
Yes.
Silvana.
Yes, so even though I wasn't attending, I still can approve?
Well, you can approve them for grammatical content if you'd like.
We know that that's what you're focusing on.
Or you can abstain.
I guess I abstained because I wasn't in the.
Okay, I will approve them also. Okay, first up is DEP 313604. It is 28 Bellevue Avenue. This is a notice of intent to raise an existing dwelling and construct a new single-family home within a buffer to BVW. John, I take it it's you.
Hey, good evening. John Ogren, Hayes Engineering. Am I able to share?
Yeah, so I think you can. It looks like you can, yes.
Okay, so as just stated, filed a notice of intent for this property. And it's located 28 Bellevue Avenue. Just so you know, Bellevue Avenue is located kind of between Butler Ave and Preston Street, and New Salem Street to the north. This is an existing lot. This lot has 19,249 square feet. It's in a single resident zone. Existing, there is a house and driveway. Let me zoom up a little bit. There's existing house, two-story house and driveway. Topography wise, it comes up slightly from the road. Then as it goes back through the house and down towards the wetlands at the rear of the property, it slopes back down. There is 400 feet of wetland located towards the rear of the property. All the work is being proposed is within the 100-foot buffer. What we're proposing to do is to raise this existing house. We're going to be removing this existing driveway and proposing a new single-family home with a driveway that's straight in the front, covered porch in the front, proposed deck in the rear. In terms of grading, essentially, again, it's going to be graded similar to what's out there now. It's very slightly up from the street and then slopes down to what's going to be a walkout in the rear of the house. Drainage wise, we looked at the existing and proposed, and those calculations I've added to the plan. So for a 25-year storm event, the required storage would be 148 cubic feet, and that's based on 335 square feet additional impervious area. So the existing impervious area is 2,070 square feet. we're proposing 2,405 square feet. We're proposing 4 Storm Tech SC 310 units, the crushed stone, and based on HydroCAD calculations, it's 168 cubic feet. So we have more than the required storage for that volume. We're gaining a lot of, quite a bit of that, not that huge net increase in impervious based on removing this existing driveway. Oh, I should note, we're showing a proposed erosion control, which would also be our limit of work. And you can see here, there's edge of lawn, that's the existing lawn. We're essentially running that erosion control just behind that edge of lawn. So we're not proposing to do any work any further than what's already out there as edge of lawn. Now answer any questions you might have about this project.
John,
Sorry,
Oh.
go ahead, Peter.
oh, okay. John, am I correct that just looking at the map that there's just a tiny little portion that's in that goes into the 25-foot buffer zone to the wetland? Am I correct on that? I just want to make
Yeah,
sure.
that's kind of this green line. There's a portion of the deck and the stairs coming off the deck
Okay.
would be within the 25.
Okay. I just want to make sure I'm reading it right. That's fine. It's just, okay.
And can I just ask, how much of the proposed, the house itself, how much bigger is the house than the new house than the existing house? The footprint of the house?
As far as the square footage,
Yeah,
The footprint, not the square foot.
the footprint.
yeah, the
of
footprint.
house, of the new house.
Oh, give me a second and I will get that for you. So the existing house is about 1,550 square feet. I'm sorry, the proposed house is 1,550 square feet and the existing house is about 800 square feet. So a little less than twice the footprint.
And the reason I ask is that I realize that taking away a lot of the existing pavement, so therefore you get, a reduction in the overall increase in impervious surface. But the impervious surface of the new building is just closer to the wetlands, that's all, than the driveway, than the existing driveway is. So,
That's correct. It would be closer.
John, will a lot of trees be cut down? Tell me about the tree.
Yeah, tree wise, it's essentially all lawn, except you can see there's a 24-inch maple out and in the front. As of now, we're anticipating trying to save that tree. And looking at that tree again, it has a pretty wide spread. So it may actually impact, there may be some conflict with that in the house itself. So that may need to be removed. But that would be the only tree that would be removed.
Okay, and that's sort of like 75 feet from the buffer zone, although the canopy probably goes like 50 feet.
Correct.
All right.
John, would this have a full basement?
Yeah, it's going to be a walkout in the rear.
Okay.
May I ask you a question just about when we do these reconfiguring of residential areas? I know we talk about redevelopments. Are those rules at all implicated in a project like this? I'm asking probably my fellow members of the commission.
What was the question, Peter?
I'm just curious whether when you're taking down a house and replacing it with another house, whether the rules for redevelopments apply to a project like this?
You want me to answer that?
Yeah,
Yes,
go ahead.
Thank you. You know what? I feel a little sheepish asking the question.
No, all right. So in this type of situation, there's not necessarily redevelopment. I think that you would review each project individually for this buffer zone work and decide and determine whether or not the activity is in conflict with the Wetland Protection Act and the regulations. So for just the single family house, there's no redevelopment really. Redevelopment is like riverfront and stormwater management standards where you don't have to meet it as much as you would if it were a new project. But for something like this, I don't think that's how you would attempt to review it. You would just look at the activity and say whether or not you think that's going to have an impact on the wetland.
So we can review this in terms of, and this is getting back to Teresa's comment. We could essentially review this as if it's this was a vacant parcel of land.
and to
Well,
me,
I think, sorry.
yeah, Rebecca, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, yes and no. So I would say yes, in the sense that you look at the activities, but
thought you
no
weren't
in
a-
the
I thought
sense
you were
that
a
if
lawyer.
you're, what?
I thought you weren't the lawyer. Yes or no?
Well, it's because, so if you were trying to determine whether or not there would be an impact from an activity on the adjacent wetland, whether or not, for instance, there were trees or it's lawn, that goes into you determining whether or not the new activity would have an impact. So that's why it's yes and no. So you look at it the same way, but the existing condition is different. Therefore, when you're trying to determine if the activity it has an impact, the existing condition matters. It's not really a redevelopment thing, but it just happens that there is already existing lawn. So there's no point in having a conversation about removing the tree canopy adjacent to the wetland and whether or not that would have an impact, because that's not going to happen here. Does that make sense?
It does to me, yes. I totally understand. I actually understand. Okay.
Okay, good.
I just want to make sure we knew the rule. I just want to make sure I understand whether a whole set of rules that are in the regulations needs to be applied. I think the answer is those rules don't need to be applied, but it's not irrelevant that there's an existing structure on the property.
Well, I think that when you review projects under the Wetland Protection Act, obviously you first identify the resource area, and then I like to personally read through the preamble as I remember what the values are for that type of wetland, and that kind of helps determine whether or not you think there's an impact going to happen, because it's sort of like the language to explain why there's the value there or how it protects an interest. And sometimes that's included in or more explained in the preamble, as opposed to just going right to performance standards. Does that make, you know what I mean? So I think you could read that and see what value, what interest rather, BVW protects, and then decide if any of those get impacted from your activity here.
Can I ask a question? John, is the driveway heading towards the street or back towards the back of the property?
The driveway will shed out towards the street.
Okay.
Jim, can you not see it on the plan?
I see one elevation, but I don't see the other one on the other side of the garage.
There's only, that's the old one. The new one is right in front.
Yeah, the new one's the big one right here.
So 178 is the proposed contour.
Right.
And the
And
garage.
And the old one with
floor-
that 178, it looks like.
Yeah, if you look inside the house, the garage floor is 178.5.
Right.
And yeah, there's a 178 contour down out near the curving.
Yeah, I couldn't, yeah, I can see where it stops right over there.
John, how close is the closest point of the lawn to the wetland? It looks like it might be flag 15.
Give me a second.
It's 6.5 feet.
Get a
6
scale.
feet, 6 feet, 8 inches.
Okay,
That's
It's about 34 feet.
wait a minute.
no, it's closer than 25 feet.
Yeah, it's gotta be less than 25.
Oh, are you talking about to the deck?
No,
I'm saying
so,
from flag
the edge
15
of
to the
lawn.
edge of the lawn.
Oh, the lawn area, I'm
yeah, edge of
sorry.
lawn to closest flag, which appears to be 15. I think, Ken, you're pretty close, if not right on the money.
Yeah, that's about 6 feet.
Do you anticipate any blasting? I see you're showing ledge.
It's possible, because there are a couple outcrops of ledge. It's kind of why we kind of shied the size of the tree, but kind of kept the house over towards the right side.
There is a note that Elaine has confirmed the wetland line.
Is this something we're gonna wanna look at or what?
I think we should look at it.
Yes. Agreed.
Bob, you have no more grades for your daughter, so you won't be around on the weekend.
Yeah, actually, I will be around next weekend, probably my only one for the summer.
What, this coming weekend or the following?
Next weekend. I can also do an evening, though. Any evening this coming week would be fine.
I would rather do the weekend, since, maybe next weekend. Is that okay with other folks? Bob, if you'll make it for next
Yeah,
week?
I could make next weekend, Saturday or Sunday, it looks like.
Jimmy and Ken and Sylvana and Peter, how does that sound to you?
I'm fine with that, just Peter.
Same. If it's the mid-morning,
Mornings are easier.
mid-morning is better.
Mid-morning, no 8 o'clock for you?
No, I'm so not a morning person.
Teresa, we know your MO and Savannah.
Oh, so it's 10 o'clock mid-morning?
That's
Oh my
fine.
God, that's lunchtime.
Yeah. If you get up at 4, maybe.
John, can I
I'll
ask,
do what anyone wants. I'm free as a bird both days that weekend, so.
So are we most concerned about lot 15? I mean, the number 15? Is that why we're going out there? I'm questioning here.
what, see?
Which
we're going
lot?
up and-
Well, no, the number 15. Is this
The
the one
flag.
that's really more in question?
Well,
Or all
to
of
kind
it
of see
in the
what's
back?
happening back there
Yeah.
and what else is going on the
Yeah.
lot.
No, that's
Yeah.
fine. I'm just,
Maybe just stake the corner of the house out, something like that, so we,
okay.
Kind of the back corner of the house.
just the two back corners. John, did you say that calculation for the Caltech chambers was for the whole roof?
Well, no, that with the amount of increased impervious area, we really only have to lay in the rear roof downspouts into the drainage system.
Okay, so you don't show them really tied in, you just show the chambers on the drawing. Maybe you should just
So
draw
wait.
a line to,
That's a good question.
We have a
John,
note on there that says connected to the rear roof downspouts.
okay.
John, can I ask you a question just to follow up on Jim's question? Is the Caltech chamber meant to produce sort of a zero net runoff? Or is it meant to just compensate for the amount of runoff attributable to the increased impervious area?
It's designed to mitigate for what would be the increased runoff volume.
So may I ask this question to the commission? Do we, are we concerned no net runoff, or are we only concerned with the incrementally greater net runoff created by the project?
Well, in a perfect world, you'd be mitigating for all the roof runoff for a 100-year storm if possible, but the amount of chambers that could possibly take would be unreasonable. But we could ask to see what would it take to mitigate for the entire roof runoff for at least a 25-year storm. Would it be double the size? I don't know.
Well, that's interesting. I'm just interested in the rules of the road. What we should be, what are the rules of the road that we should be thinking about?
We don't ever want to make the condition worse. We always want to improve it.
Exactly,
We always want to make it better.
better.
Well, I know, but that's right. But just compensating for the additional, taking a bad situation and not making it worse. Or are we saying taking a situation and saying, this is an opportunity to give for a win-win, that the owner gets what the owner wants and we get an improvement? And if that's the case, then are we not looking for an improvement? I don't know. I'm just trying to make sure I understand what is the end game.
So Joe, what would it take to hold the entire roof for a 25-year storm from a chamber standpoint? Is it double what is shown on the drawing, do you know? Or would you have to calculate that?
I'd have to calculate it, but just roughly, it'd probably be about 4 times the size.
Okay,
Maybe what I could offer up though is, we could propose to tie all the roof into the storm tap chambers. Then obviously in the greater storms, it wouldn't have enough volume and it would overflow. But I think from, kind of a wetland standpoint, that's probably the most beneficial because, most, 90+% of the storms are 1 inch or less. So that if it could, if it could store and eventually infiltrate the entire roof, that 1 inch of, rainfall over that roof, then, that would probably be the most beneficial as far, from a wetlands standpoint and groundwater recharge.
yeah, you'd probably have to locate some chambers to the side of the property, I would imagine, to get the front drains.
I think there's probably enough grade. Like I said, the front of the house is higher and then it slopes down to walk out. So I think it would, I don't know that we've got a house designed to the fact that, as far as how the roof is all laid out, but I'm sure that they could make that work and get that all connected to the storm tech.
Okay,
The only thing I'd want to do is just, confirm, I could take a look at what we have now and see how many inches of runoff that could, it would be able to store for that whole roof footprint.
that sounds good.
So do we want to pick June 5th, say at 10 a.m.? Is that all right?
Yeah, Saturday, June 5th at 10 o'clock a.m.
Works for me.
Works for me.
John, are you okay with that? You don't actually have to be there as long as it's flagged for us.
Yeah, I don't know that I can, I don't know if you need someone from our office because I don't believe I can make that.
Yeah, I don't think we do if you,
I
get
don't think
that
we
flag.
need to do it. It looks pretty
Yeah.
simple.
Are there any flags on there now or? John?
Yeah, the flags are out there now.
But we want the,
They had gone
Talking
out
about the
there.
wetland, the back.
She must have gone out there last week.
Is the property vacant right now?
No, there's a house on it.
Right, but is there somebody living there?
Oh, living there, sorry.
Yeah, I don't believe anyone's living in the house.
Okay. I'm sorry, John, did you say that are the lot corners of the new structure marked as well, or no? Will you have to do that?
The staking of the corners of the house.
Yes.
Yeah, no, we haven't staked it, but I can have that before Saturday.
And then also you're gonna stake out the corners of the proposed storm tech,
Okay,
just so we have a good feel for where it's at,
And can,
yep.
knowing it'll most likely be increased.
sorry, can you also put where the corners of the new deck are gonna be?
The deck also.
Just more snakes. Huh? Okay.
Right. Please, thank you.
Is that it for questions and or requests for this property?
I'm good.
I'm good.
All right, so then we'd be looking to continue. We'll do a site walk Saturday the 5th at 10 o'clock. And John will get it staked out for us and we'll take a look.
And Rebecca or Judy, can you send us an invitation? I guess not.
I'll send it.
Sorry, I shook my head. Yes.
All right, so we're gonna move on. Let's see what time we have. All right, we're actually over time a bit. So we have DEP, actually, we don't have a file number yet, 26 Millbrook Lane.
Can I interrupt for just 1 second?
Sure.
John, is there a stream back there at all, or what's feeding the wetland?
No, just BVW.
Okay. All right.
All right, Jimmy?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so we're gonna move on to 26 Millbrook Lane. It doesn't look like we have a file number yet. Public hearing, notice of intent for construction of a swimming pool and patio within the riverfront to the Mill River and within buffer to BVW.
Yes. Good evening, members of the commission. Thor Akerley, wetland scientist and registered sanitarian from Williams and Sparages. I apologize if I sound and look a little rough. I got my second Moderna shot yesterday, so I haven't been feeling too great today. So excuse that, please. So tonight we'll be representing the homeowners of 26 Millbrook Lane, Ryan and Susan Burns, as well as their 4 children. Is it okay if I share my screen or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So this is a 23,839 square foot lot located on the very end of Millbrook Lane. It is one of the parcels on Millbrook that was developed, of course, before the Wetlands Protection Act was in place, obviously. It's a situation where there was lawn created pretty much right up to the edge of the river with a single family home, paved driveway, and concrete patio off the back of the dwelling. There was also a previously existing pool within a similar footprint to what's proposed here. This dashed line, which is a little tough to see, I know, but it's kind of in a rectangular and cuts across here and then up along here is the general location of where the pool was. The previous owners of the property had it removed back in around 2010, according to aerial photography. And then just generally, the site itself slopes pretty gradually. There's not a significant slope here, especially around where the pool is proposed. It's a few foot drop from Millbrook towards the back of the Mill River or the Saugus River. Existing environmental resource areas at the property consist of number 1, the riverfront area associated with Mill River. that was it was pretty coincident with the edge of BVW as well. It was a little bit further down the slope than the edge of BVW. But there's a pretty clear slope there off of the lawn, and where you see this existing edge of disturbed here. It slopes down at about a 3-to-1 grade there. Additionally, we also have BVW, bordering vegetated wetland, associated with on that slope and with the river. And then finally, we have bordering land subject to flooding, which is this darker line here, which is the special hazard flood area, zone AE, elevation 56. As we were able to do a topo of the property, we could determine exactly where that line is instead of just looking at an image from the firm maps. So the project proposal is relatively simple. As I briefly mentioned, Susan and Ryan are hoping to construct a 20-foot by 40-foot swimming pool for their children. It is proposed all entirely within existing lawn area adjacent to this concrete patio. The difficulty with this one, well, I guess I'll start by talking about the riverfront area regulations. I guess performance standard wise, the main goal for work in riverfront area on a lot that's recorded before, I believe it's October 6, 1996. The commission has the discretion to allow 10% of alteration on the lot or 5,000 square feet, whichever is greater. So in situations where you have an existing home and the entire lot's, within riverfront area, the commission has the discretion to approve work for something like a swimming pool or accessory structures or whatever the commission feels is appropriate. So in this case, it is just a pool and patio area within the riverfront area and within the buffer zone to BVW. There's nowhere proposed within BLSF. It's also worth noting that if this was located just a few feet further outside of the 50-foot buffer zone, it would technically be exempt and would not be regulated under the Wetlands Protection Act because it's considered a conversion of lawn to an accessory structure to a home. So very close to that line. And then the other piece of the riverfront area regulations is that they want you to show that there are no other practicable alternatives to what's proposed, and that the applicants have done their best to mitigate and to keep things as far away from the resource areas as possible. And in this case, things are very limited here. Of course, this lawn area could be used, but there is it would be very close to the resource areas, as I mentioned. So Ryan and Susan wanted to try to put the pool and patio area within the same or a similar footprint to what was previously existing, with a slight breach of that area in this direction, mainly because they wanted to get that 20 by 40 pool for the 4 kids. And then the other piece of why we couldn't move this further towards the row of arborvitaes up here is there is an existing 30-foot wide sewer and drain easement that runs along the side of this property, discharges out here into the Mill River. So the pool had to stay outside of that. The town has the right to work in that area whenever needed, although it's pretty unlikely that they would ever really need to dig it up. And the pipe's also likely somewhere in the middle, not on the edge, but it would be risky to propose, and it might not even be allowed by the town engineer or building inspector to put the pool within that area. The homeowners did want to try to extend the patio over to here within a similar footprint to what was existing previously. And they were okay with living with the fact that should the town ever need to get in there and dig up this pipe for whatever reason, that they would need to let them remove it and then put it back down later on. So I think that covers it. Oh yeah, and the other piece of fitting the pool in here and how we tried to do the best we could is that there's an existing concrete wall here with a set of stairs that comes down into the lawn area. And it wouldn't make sense to have this pool right up against this stairway here. It's a safety hazard, and it just would be a little risky there for the family. So we added a 2-foot buffer in between here. So you can kind of see how things took shape here. 2-foot buffer here, stayed outside of the sewer and drain easement, and So we felt that was close to the best we could do. With the addition of impervious surfaces here associated with the patio, we've added a 2-foot deep by 1-foot wide infiltration trench. There's a detail shown here on the left-hand side of the drawing. This is crushed stone in the center of it, wrapped in filter fabric with river rock on top. And so any runoff from the patio would be captured by that stone infiltration trench. And we did include a operations and maintenance or operations and maintenance plan with the notice of intent, just highlighting some of the general things to worry about and watch for on these trenches. Typically, it's really just making sure that the filter fabric doesn't get clogged and changing that every so often. But with it being a patio, there shouldn't be much sediment or anything that would clog it up. So I think that essentially covers everything. I should also note that we don't have a DEP file number, which I believe was mentioned. And then the other piece is that Rebecca pointed out that it caught us a little by surprise, is that in the zoning bylaw, it requires all structures, which includes fences and pools, be located greater than 50 feet from the edge of a river. So at the current layout, the fence is about 45 feet and the pool is about 48 feet from the river. So what may end up having to happen, or what will likely have to happen, is a slight reduction in the length of this pool, where we can slide the pool up a little bit towards the arborvitaes and then try to keep it away or outside of the 50-foot buffer to the river. So that's something that we'll be looking to revise and give the commission ahead of the next meeting, where we'll hopefully have a DEP file number. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
The proposed patio, is that poured concrete or are those pavers?
So it's my understanding that there would be aggregate decking at this time. So concrete and aggregate.
Okay.
That whole
Well-
area is proposed patio? I can't tell.
So yeah, so it's this hatched area with the dots.
That whole area.
Yeah,
Sorry.
right over the easement.
Wow. That's a lot of patio.
It is, but it's not drastically different than what was existing here previously. And, again, this will all slope towards that infiltration trench. So, aside from a really severe storm, a lot of that, any runoff would be captured. And then there's still, 40 feet of lawn where water has the opportunity to infiltrate.
You said it was there. I guess and you said that the existing pool, the old pool was removed in 2010. So again, we'll probably go out to see the site, but where the proposed patio is going, is that lawn area now?
Yes. Yep. That's all lawn area.
Facing lawn with a patio of pavers. Is that what you said?
It's proposed to be aggregate decking, so concrete.
Concrete. And what's the area of the proposed patio?
It is approximately 800, about 1,400 square feet in total. So, but again, it's worth pointing out too that the conversion of lawn to accessory structures like a pool or patio, assuming they're outside of 50 feet, which the majority of this is, it's assumed to protect the interests of the act. And of course, this is a unique situation too, where, as Rebecca mentioned, there aren't a lot of interests here because of when the lot was developed and how that was done back in the day.
So you're going to address the 50-foot issue?
Yes.
And will that mean a reduction in the patio size and a slightly shifting of the pool, or what would happen?
So I believe it would result in a slight decrease. The pool would slide up about to here. And then the patio would come up alongside of it here. And then it probably wouldn't make sense to extend it into this area. So it would probably cut up. This would just slide, everything would slide up. So you'd probably lose another 200 to 300 square feet of patio as well.
This would be a cartridge type filter for the pool.
Oh, yes, thanks for, this is a non-backwash cartridge filter, so any discharge or regular cleaning would operate on a closed loop. And instead of just discharging it into the lawn, it's just a filter that you change it within the pool filtration system every so often. They're pretty cool.
Yeah, you know, you put a lot of that drainage trench along the side. Is it really, you don't have that much to water to catch on that side? How, it's like a 2-foot apron around it, right?
Yeah.
Were you trying to meet some kind of a standard with the amount of trench?
No, we just wanted to give the commission as much as possible. You know, it's not a huge expense or difficulty to add it along here. But you do have a point that even this 2-foot area won't really capture a ton.
Wouldn't it be better to incorporate more down at the patio side than at the pool side?
You mean up here?
No,
Yeah.
down the other, where your patio is. I mean, this is, your runoff is going down towards the corner where your arrow is, correct? You don't have many elevations out there.
So yeah, so this is all really flat.
56. So, I mean, how far up above the water table are you?
Approximately 4 to 5 feet.
And what's your appropriate?
It'd be dewatering most likely for the pool.
It's certainly possible, and we can ahead of the next meeting, we have a good detail, and we can show an area where dewatering could occur if needed. Basically, a circle of hay bales with crushed stone at the center, and a dirt bag is what they call them. They're basically black filter fabric, and water would be pumped out of the excavation for the pool and discharged into the dirt bag crushed stone hay bale area, which could be located up here above the arborvitaes, or I guess along this side.
So how is this grading going? Is it going from the house?
So it's really flat. This is all really flat in here. So we were kind of just going to let the pool contractor take care of it. But generally, we could add some flow arrows, and it would be a slight change in grade and flow towards in this direction towards the infiltration trench.
I'm just thinking about all that. What's the square footage of patio that you're putting in?
Right now, it's about I believe it was 1,400.
14. So I mean, you've got all that patio and you have that one infiltration detail that you put in, which is limited in length. Do you need more?
Well, I mean, I guess I feel pretty good about the fact that this would capture this, the larger area here, right? And then this
Yeah.
would slope down as well. So I'm not sure. I guess we could extend it along this side. Or,
I'm just asking, I'm just, because I'm looking for the knowledge that you have. I'm just asking, I'm just looking at it and saying it's, that trench could be better used somewhere else is what I'm thinking.
yeah,
But it is so flat, it's tough to tell. I mean, I see a spot grade of 5708 in the corner, right where the arrow is now, almost. And a 5697, 56.
yeah.
So it is, yes, slightly sloping
It's going down to
back.
It's
So-
going down to 54 by flag.
So those are just existing grades. Those are not proposed grades. So when they would build this, they would allow it to gently slope in this direction
Okay.
towards the trench.
Okay.
Likely something in the range of 1%. If it would help, we can certainly add approximate elevations, but a lot of the times the contractors will just end up doing whatever they want.
Yeah.
Yeah, we like to avoid that when possible.
It helps,
Okay.
but it is a pretty flat area, which is good, for building purposes.
Okay. Rebecca, you had a note that you put down. Statement from the building inspector violates.
Oh, Yep.
section- What is that?
The 50-foot, right?
yeah, the 50-foot setback, and we already talked about it, and I think for the next meeting, it's gonna see how we can adjust it with a fence in order to try to meet that.
Yeah. It's too bad you couldn't move it a little bit so you could get out of the 50 feet. And
That's what
That's what he's gonna do, Jimmy.
he
That's
said.
what we're gonna have to
if
do.
you can, if it works.
Yeah,
Yeah, it looks like it'll work.
yeah. We'll have to cut down on the size a bit.
It's a big pool anyways.
It is.
Yeah,
40 by 20, that's a big pool. What type of a pool is it? Is it a gunite pool or a steel pool or liner?
Gunite.
Gunite?
Actually, it's bigger than 40 by 20, right? Because you get the L shape at the top right-hand corner. That must be like the shallow end.
Yeah, so that's what I've been told is a sun shelf. So it's not really pool. It's kind of just a lounge area
Hmm.
to hang out in. So it's not really I guess part of the pool.
Hmm. Okay.
Will this pool be heated at all?
Not to my knowledge. But I can ask the applicants.
Yeah, and if so, how?
Yeah, I will. I can certainly ask the applicants, the homeowners, ahead of the next meeting.
All right, so we're looking for a new drawing to take into account the 50 feet. Some directional arrows on the patio. Find out if the pool will be heated or not, and if so, how. And
did Jimmy request additional infiltration trenches?
additional information on what, Teresa?
I thought Jim asked for more infiltration trench on the other side.
Yeah, is that something you wanted, Jimmy? Or did you want to wrap that trench around the corner?
What are you talking about? The trench detail, the infiltration detail?
Yeah, you were asking about that.
I mean, yeah, it's just if it was me, I'd put it along that back line, making an L shape.
Right.
But I don't know if it's what he thinks of it, if he thinks that's money well spent or not.
Do you mean over here?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's actually a good idea. And keep this section here too, or
no, I take that out of there. I don't know really what that's gonna
yeah.
Well,
capture.
you don't know how the contract is going to truly grade the patio and where stuff's really going to flow.
Yeah,
I mean, I think it would be prudent to keep it there and to wrap it around the other side.
yeah. I think that's reasonable and a good idea, and it will help the neighbors too.
Anything else? Anybody have?
Are we gonna look at this or are we all set with this or what? Are we gonna wait for the plan, right?
No, I think we should wait for the new plan and then have it staked out and then we can see where it is.
Yeah. Okay,
Well, I mean, we could, it's the proposal's not going to change a whole lot. If it would save I know they're hoping to have it built this summer. If it would save them a 2-week waiting period, it would be helpful, but if the commission wants to wait for a new plan, that's fine too.
Well, you could also submit a new plan as soon as possible, and we could arrange to visit the site next Saturday when we're out
Exactly.
doing other site walks.
At either 9:30 or 10:30, depending on Sylvana's schedule.
Yeah. Yeah, so if you could get a new plan in by the end of next week.
Yeah.
We'd be able to take a visit.
And would you be able to stake out where the edges of the construction, where, of the pool and the patio will be?
We could, if that would be helpful. It's pretty easy to orient yourself out there with the arborvitae's and this wall. But
It would be helpful.
yeah, it's just an additional cost for the homeowners, but if the commission needs that, we can try to accommodate that.
Do others agree?
I mean, if at least the pool.
You're saying it's
is
easy to
staked
figure
out.
out. It's easy enough to drive a stake.
Can anyone get a Google picture of the lot? Maybe we can just tell from that.
Well, I guess my question was, how accurate do you want the pool? Like, I certainly can go out there and stake it. But what I was thinking is that you'd want the survey crew to go out and stake it, which just opens up some additional costs for the homeowner.
And if we're within a foot or two, I mean, that would be fine, I would think.
Okay.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Thank you.
There's no issues with having the pool on the side of the house as far as any covenants or anything like that. Not that it's our issue, but I'm just curious.
When you say covenants, do you mean related to the easement, or do you mean?
Within the neighborhood or the property or anything like that. I mean, I don't know if there's any rules
There's
or.
no homeowners association, there's no, I'm sure.
There's nothing I saw within the.
Are
this
there
was-
zoning rules about pools and side yards?
It's 15 feet side yard setback.
Okay.
How old is the house? I was just curious.
1968, it was built according to the assessors.
Thank you.
All right, is that all we have for requests and/or questions?
So are we gonna, I think so, are we scheduling a site visit at 10:30 or?
Wait a minute, Rebecca, we haven't heard anything from you. Do you have any comments? She's still-
No, not right now.
Okay.
I think we covered the comments that Rebecca submitted, right? Or have we? Yeah, I think we have actually.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so if you can get us a drawing by the end of next week, we'll plan on doing a site walk next Saturday, the 5th,
Okay.
and 10:30.
10:30.
Sounds good. We'll definitely have the revised plan into Rebecca by then.
And maybe we'll have a DP file number by then too.
And you do the little stakes.
Yes.
Alrighty.
Um,
Will you be there to show us, or you don't have to be if the homeowners will let us on the property, but
I'll talk to them and see what they want to do. But I can be there as well if you want.
I'm surprised we're not going there till midnight or supper, probably. Maybe supper time is the right time. I don't know.
but
All right, that it? All right, excellent. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you all very much.
And we're gonna move on. All right, so we're almost back on schedule. We have DEP 313, actually, this is continued. So 237 Water Street is actually continued due to some ZBA issues. So we actually have about 10 minutes to knock off some other business before we have our next 8:15 meeting. So we have old business. We have a couple of requests for certificate of compliance. We have 34 Butler Ave and we have 94 Kendrick. 34 Butler Ave. The notes say Elaine has reviewed and approved it. Rebecca, do you have any comments about 34 Butler?
I do not. Elaine took both of 34 Butler, and then I added on 94 Kendrick Road, which might not be on your agenda, but both of those have submitted the as-built plans and the request for certificate of compliance, and Elaine has visited both of the sites, and her notes to me were that everything looks as is. Sorry, as it's supposed to be. I think she even mentioned that the 34 Butler had like additional plantings more so than they actually needed to. So she was okay with both of them.
Any discussion on 34 Butler? If not, is there a motion to issue a certificate of compliance?
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second.
Okay. I think that was Silvana. It was a
Yeah.
tie. I definitely heard Silvana's second.
Yes, 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 yes.
Somebody else's, but we'll go with that.
Oh,
All right, polling individually. Ken,
Yes.
Jimmy,
Yes.
Teresa.
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Silvana,
yay.
and I also vote yay to approve a certificate of compliance for 34 Butler.
Bob, can you also do 94 Kendrick?
I can, but I recused myself from that
Okay.
entirely. So I probably shouldn't even say another word about that. Jimmy?
You next to King, Jim?
What are you talking to me?
Yeah,
He's doing,
94 Kendrick, I had recused
Sound like
myself.
Robert De Niro. Sound like
he's
Robert De
doing his
Niro.
Robert De Niro imitation, right, right. Well done, Jim.
Okay, so what was Kendrick Road now? I'm not sure what.
That was a
That would be
patio,
at Bob's house.
patio near my house, yes.
Okay, so he's done the work?
Yes. That's what Rebecca said, that Elaine looked at everything.
So what am I supposed to say about it then?
You want to entertain a motion to issue a certificate of compliance.
Okay, there you go. I'll second.
Wait, whoa.
So, all right, so Jimmy, you're entertaining the motion.
Can I get a motion to issue a certificate
So made.
of compliance, please?
So made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We got to do a roll though.
Hmm.
That's Bob's job. What's he doing?
No, you can't do that.
He's recused.
Okay, everyone say their name and your position on this.
Ken, yes.
Okay, there we go.
Peter, yes.
Silvana, yes.
And Teresa, yes. And how about you, Jim?
Jim, yes.
Okay.
I forgot about that guy.
Mhm.
Okay, I'll take back control now.
Thank goodness.
All right, so we still have another 5 minutes for additional business. Next, I do see 26 Shady Ave added to the agenda. Discussion.
Yeah, he's trying to get on, but he hasn't been able to get linked on to this yet. I don't know how to, I don't know how to help him.
I was emailing him during this meeting, and he had said that he wasn't prepared to he doesn't have any additional information in regard to this, so he would like to be on the next agenda maybe.
Okay,
What was he
Alright.
supposed to come back on? I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank.
Well, me and Elaine went out there to try to establish the BVW line, and we actually took some measurements and tied it to the house. I don't know if Elaine still has that information or not, but I wanted to see if I could get Ken to plot that on his drawing. And so we have like 4 lines out there that we can choose from.
Oh, I see.
I haven't seen anything.
No, I think Elaine still has the information, I'm hoping.
Did you get the plot plan from him?
He had a plot plan. We didn't take it because it was his only plot plan. And I don't know what we did with the paperwork at that time. But if I had to, I could go back out there and measure it again.
Is there any way we can get the copy of these? Can you PDF it and email it to us?
Well, I'll have to ask Elaine. She's in tomorrow, right? We can ask her if she's got the information.
She's not in tomorrow. She
She's not
took
in
today and tomorrow off.
That would it would just be a little bit more accurate if you have a plan rather than an aerial photo from Google Maps.
I was measuring it right off the house. So his house got, the house is usually certified on the plot plan. And
Right.
that's a good stationary point to measure from.
I can try to get a plot plan.
Yeah. I'm actually, maybe if you call John, he might be able to give it to you
Okay.
to make a
I'll work
copy.
on that. And once I have the plot plan, I send it to Ken.
No, we gotta go out and measure it again, or hopefully maybe he's got the measurements. We're missing the information we
Well,
need to
first-
finish this.
Well, first check if Elaine has the measurements, right?
Mhm.
Yes. And if Lane doesn't have the information, I'll go back out there and I'll measure it again and I'll get it to Ken.
Okay.
Rebecca, have you seen the property?
No, I've never been there.
Should take a look.
I can.
Maybe when Jimmy goes back out.
Actually, yeah, maybe you could do that. Me and you could probably do it
Okay.
next week.
Yeah.
All right.
Any more discussion on Shady F?
No.
Okay, we still have another minute or two before we can start. Actually, it's a continuation, so we can actually start right now. So we've got 38 Real Walton. And it's DEP 313601. This is a continuation. Notice of intent for the demolition of an existing house and construct a new house within a buffer to BVW. I know we'd asked John for some information. And John, you back with us?
And back.
Okay. Like I never left.
So, yeah, we submitted a revised plan. I'm sharing that. So I think there was several items that the commission had asked us to take a look at or revise. The first one was looking at this driveway, proposed driveway. There was a turnaround that extended into the 25-foot. We moved that around to this side here so that we got it outside of the 25-foot. We were also asked to take a look at and create a cross-section. So this is cross-section AA, which is basically right through here. I don't know why that didn't show up on this. So from the house here out to the stream. And so this is the proposed foundation, the proposed grade, existing grade, and this is the top of the bank to the stream. That kind of gives you an idea as to the cross section from the house to the bank and the stream. It was also asked to add dewatering detail. We've added a detail for dewatering if it becomes necessary. Essentially crushed stone surrounded by filter fabric and stake hay bales. Any pumping that has to go on, dewatering would be pumped into this and then allowed to flow overland out towards the wetlands. There's a note on here too that the actual location of the dewatering, if necessary, be determined in the field by the contractor with approval from the Conservation Commission. The one other, we had talked about this hemlock that was located here and how it seemed to be, I don't know whether it was, it's actually a disease, but it was basically not going to survive. So we marked that to be removed. We also submitted some other information based on the comments from Bill Renault, the town engineer. We submitted to the commission the storage calculations that were generated from HydroCAD for the chambers and crushed stone. We also defined the area that is tributary to this infiltration system. So and did the reverse. This shaded area here is not tributary to this infiltration system, but the remainder of the house is tributary to that. One of the other comments the town engineer made was in reference to the town's stormwater bylaw. And I'm not quite sure why this applied. One of the major criteria is that you have 15,000 square feet of disturbed area. What we're proposing here, basically limited work to the proposed erosion control, is about 12,100 square feet. So we're below that 15,000 square foot threshold. Also, along with that, the bylaw states that activities that are subject to jurisdiction under the Wetlands Protection Act and demonstrate compliance with the Mass Stormwater Management Policy as reflected in order conditions issued by the Conservation are exempt from compliance with this bylaw. So essentially, if you go through the process of filing an NOI, you're not subject to that stormwater bylaw. And I think that was pretty much. One other thing. It was mentioned reference to the 50 feet in the zoning bylaw. Not allowed to have a structure within 50 feet of a stream bank embankment. We have filed for a finding with the zoning board of appeals. Get a finding as to on this site, since there was already an existing structure that was closer than the 50 feet. We're asking that the zoning board of appeals find that this house is not anymore detrimental. And I think that's it.
Don't we have a rule that we don't rule on anything until the other boards finalize what they are doing? Or is it just the application?
Yeah, I mean, we have just filed with them. We haven't been before the zoning board yet.
So whatever happens here would certainly be dependent upon that variance. So really, there's nothing, unless we have some other questions or concerns, there isn't anything we can really do until we hear back about that.
And I believe you can issue an order of conditions. The Wetlands Protection Act requires basically that you can require that you have at least filed for other permits. It doesn't state that you have to obtain them.
True, but what if,
If they're relative to our work, why would we close it?
right, and if the variance isn't given for that 50-foot setback, then what?
And either the project doesn't go forward or the project gets revised so that it would be able to get that variance or not need the variance.
Hmm.
Are you scheduled, John, with the ZBA?
No, I do not know when we're going to be before them.
Hmm.
I mean, it would seem to make sense to stay open until, there's resolution on that, I would think. Anybody else think that way?
I would agree.
Rebecca, you got a take on this?
Yeah, I think it's probably wise. They wouldn't be able to move their construction forward without doing that anyway. So I'm not sure waiting for that decision and then issuing yours would hold up very much. Or any additionally, John, I don't know if you feel differently about that. I would be interested to see what they say about that 50-foot setback. The rule says for, in regard to permits and whether or not, it says that they have to, the requirement is to obtain or apply for all obtainable permits, variances, et cetera, with respect to the proposed activity shall mean only those which are feasible to obtain at the time of the notice of intent. So I think you could take that as, I think you could take it either way. So I think if you wanted to wait until they obtain their decision from the ZBA, I think it says you can do that. I don't think you have to if there's no benefit to it, but I think I would wait. John, do you think that would result in any significant change to their timetable for construction?
I do, mostly because we are going before them for a finding. So they'll be able to get on the agenda fairly quickly. And if they make that finding that night, I don't believe that there's any appeal period to that. So, if we already had our order conditions, then we would be able to stop and move forward. Whereas if we wait till we get the ZBA finding, then, whenever the next Concom meeting is, wait for that order of conditions to be issued, and then we have the appeal period.
So our next meeting is June 10th.
Is it? June 10th? Yeah.
Yeah.
Does anybody know when the next ZBA meeting is?
It's the second week in June. They meet the second and fourth week.
What day of the week do they meet, Judy?
When?
On Wednesdays?
So it would be the 9th, yeah?
Correct.
It'd be the night before us.
Well, would our position change at all as far as the projects related to the bank or to the stream? I
If
mean,
he has to if it ends up he has to maintain a 50-foot, he's gonna have to redesign the project.
But I'm saying if is everyone happy with what the plan's showing right now?
If they do end up approving the variance,
At the
are we
time-
fine with it?
Me too. John supplied what we asked for. Then if it did change, John, would you have to do a new filing? What would you do? You'd have to come before us.
Well, the
again.
hearing depends. If we keep this open, then he doesn't have to do anything but give us a new plan.
Right, I'm saying, but if we do what he suggested, if we issue it, and then we're done, it wouldn't have to do a new filing, or would he just ask for a modification?
Oh,
I would think we could come back for a modification.
I think it would depend on what kind of changes take place.
Right,
in the
good
plan.
point, Jim.
We could, yeah.
I still think we should keep it open.
And as it is now, we would be meeting the night after the ZBA meeting anyways, if you are on the next one.
Yeah, I just don't know because Attorney McGrail handled the filing and with the ZBA.
Mm.
So from a procedural point of view, it seems to me that we have met, sorry, I'm Bob Sullivan. I'm the owner of the property. It seems to me that we have met everything that the Conservation Commission has asked for following the last meeting. So I would hope that we could go forward and close this out and just wait for the ZBA.
Mm.
Well, that is an option.
I don't see any other restrictions we'd be putting on this. If there was something that could possibly change how close they're working to the stream or the structure, whether it's a fence or whatever it is, then I could see you holding it up, but I'm not sure it makes sense to not close it.
I mean, he'd be moving further away from the stream under, that condition if they don't give him the 25 feet.
If there is a change in the plan, he's gonna have to come back to us.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah, but it seems to me if we can't get this by the ZBA, that we're going to have to design a smaller footprint and be well within all of your requirements anyway.
I mean,
We have to see it again though, right?
Yes. So we could close it if nobody has any additional outstanding issues and is comfortable with what has been presented to us. Knowing that if the ZBA does require the 50 feet, he's coming back anyways. We'll be re-reviewing. It is tight. We know that. He's got as big a house as possible in the space given. But he is meeting the 25 feet.
well, wait a minute. Can we look at the plan again?
Yes, thank you.
First of all, I know we went through the items that we asked John to take care of. Is there anything else here that people would want to have a second look at? Something that might be a better fit for the Conservation Commission? I don't know.
Can I ask you a quick question? Because I wasn't at the first meeting, so I apologize, and you guys may have gone over this. I'm just curious why the proposed driveway went from being on the far side of the stream to the 25-foot to the stream. Was it just like a design for the house, or was there another reason why they didn't reuse where the previous driveway had been?
I will say that I will note that that really increases the amount of impervious area on the site. It's a huge increase.
How so?
Look at it.
What do you
Explain.
mean, if the house was reversed the opposite way?
the area is the area. If anything, you're less
Yeah.
area.
No.
Well,
I mean,
you'd end up with more.
Look at the driveway, look at the driveway. If the, I mean, it extends the driveway, it's,
Across the front of the house and to
Flip the
Peter's
house.
point,
No, you flip the house around.
right, if you flip it around, mirror image the house,
Mirror image the house.
you wouldn't have the road coming in front of the house, right? You'd end the street at the
Right there.
driveway.
that's the point. That was Rebecca's point. I mean, it's a huge increase, that additional, expanding the driveway all the way to the 20, right to before the stream. Just look at the increase in impervious area.
By what? Flipping the house?
Yes, Jim, look at where the driveway is. If the house were designed so that
The driveway is the light gray, what he wants to do.
No,
Right?
the
Correct.
existing, look at where the existing driveway is.
The dark gray is existing, the light gray. is
Dark gray is
proposed.
existing.
Yes, right.
If you flip this house over, mirrored it around the other, mirrored it around the, well, I don't know, towards the
Right.
existing
You just
driveway,
mirror the house.
just mirror the house.
Yes.
You're gonna take out all this driveway, all this proposed driveway and replace it with area that's already paved. And
That's right.
well, that's less area.
That's
Correct.
what I'm saying. It's a huge, the proposal, it's a huge increase in impervious area. That is Rebecca's point. She's saying why the existing plan, by doing it, by orienting the house that way, you're almost doubling the impervious area on the site. That alone, that,
You're saying that if we flip the house, it would be beneficial.
Yes.
Thing.
yes. Yes.
Okay, well, I'm agreeing
Or
with
put it
you.
this way, if the existing driveway stayed the existing driveway, I don't care what house is put there. That would, all of that would almost cut in half the impervious area on the site. We'd cut it down by 40% maybe. I'm just looking at the map.
And it would give his turnaround that he wanted as well.
And John, can you make this picture bigger?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that particular house would be, because then you might have to pivot the house and, to create, to give enough driveway. I understand that there's issues there, but it did occur to me that this is just you're double, just a gigantic increase in because most of the existing area that most of the existing blacktop is staying. And then it's just a huge add-on of all that existing blacktop.
Good point.
Yeah, I don't know.
That was Rebecca's point.
Right.
Right. Yeah, so why don't can we look at some, John, do you have any input on this?
Yeah, I mean, as far as the house that's designed for this lot, it really doesn't make sense. If you look at it as you're coming up, you're gonna be coming up, kind of from the top of the page up to the house. You're gonna be staring at the garage. As you can see, it's kind of set, the front entrance and everything is kind of set back. So it's kind of where the porch is kind of the main entrance to focus as you come up to the house.
Well, all those types of things are aesthetic things that can be worked on. I'm just saying, as far as the location of the house.
Yeah, if you're talking about that particular blueprint, that particular house needs that particular driveway. That's, but I think Jim's saying in a more generic sense, it's not that hard to design a house that could accommodate that driveway.
But you'd also end up with more privacy on the porch. You'd have the stream on one side and you wouldn't actually see the neighbor house if you're sitting on the porch. Be a quieter private setting.
Can I ask a question? Is the objection to the amount of pavement, i.e. impervious area? And if that's so, then what if part of that was made gravel?
So I think I started this. I was just wondering, it wasn't only about the impervious area. It was previously, there was just one corner of the existing house that was at that 25-foot mark. Now there's an entire wall of a house plus the driveway that is right at that 20-foot mark. So that's why I was wondering if it was the design. So in addition to the impervious areas, just wondering why it was proposed that way. And I said, I hope I I prefaced it with, I wasn't at the first meeting, so I apologize if you guys already covered this. I thought it'd be just like a little quick question into that.
Yeah, well, Rebecca, to your
Not
point,
necessarily.
we did point out that they maximized the size of the house on the lot, maintaining that 25-foot setback. But it is a very good point.
But that position of the house as it is meets the requirements of the 25-foot setback.
Yes,
25-foot setback is a standard we try to live by, but you've got the driveway and everything else right up to the 25 feet. I mean, it makes so much more sense for us to have the house flipped. I know it's not something that you're looking as a positive,
Not at all.
but I mean, I see it as a worthwhile, as something worthwhile to look into. Anyone else have comments, or what do you want to do?
Okay, maybe if I could just point out, I think having that kind of that longer wall up against the stream and the wetlands, probably more beneficial in terms of activity there. If you flip the house, now it's gonna be a lot more activity closer to the wetlands and closer to the stream. You know, the way that the house is laid out here, most of that activity is people entering and exiting the house, and are all gonna be more towards the other portion of the lot.
Except for the use of the driveway and getting into the garage, no?
Correct. You know, one thing too, if you flip the house, you have to look at, you know, potentially you can see that the angle of the house to the roadway coming in, you know, it may lend itself to wanting to kind of twist or rotate, which may put us closer to the wetlands.
what do you have for clearance on the neighbor side of the house between the property line and the house right now?
We have it, this is set at 16 feet and
Okay,
the back is 15.
okay. So there's not much room to rotate if you had to change the angle.
Well, I mean, let's face it, you could change the size of the house if you had to.
Right.
Yeah,
A lot of things that could be done that would be worth investigating.
And what's the overall increase to impervious surface? John,
They increased to what?
what's the
Yes.
to the in between the house, the porch, well, the porch, I guess, and the driveway? What's the increase in the? Oh, there it is, right there. Sorry.
Yeah, the total difference between existing and proposed is 2,750 square feet.
and you're proposing to handle how much, what storm event in the Caltex?
And that's using the 5.3 inches, which is the Cornell number for the 25-year storm.
Okay, and that was for the entire roof or the additional square footage?
No, that was for the difference in the impervious area.
Okay, just the difference.
Yeah, which it comes out to in terms of the proposed house. It's the entire house footprint area, but not including this portion of the over by the garage.
And it was just the roof. It wasn't the additional impervious due to the pavement, was it? Or was it?
No, it was just the roof that's going to the infiltration units.
But as far as handling additional water for the impervious area calculation was strictly the additional roof compared to the existing condition, or existing roof difference plus?
I'm sorry, no, it's we looked at the impervious area existing, which is the house and the driveway. And then we looked at the proposed house and the driveway and took the difference in those impervious.
Okay, all right, so it is the total difference in impervious area.
Correct.
Okay,
So it's like a 57% increase in impervious area on the lot.
Yeah, yeah.
That's right, but I think there's a very good plan to handle all the water runoff from that additional impervious area.
Has everyone seen this? I
yes,
know there's like, who went? Me?
I went.
I could not go when you went.
I mean,
I
maybe some
went.
people want to go out there and take a look at it.
What did you think when you went out there, Jim?
Well, I think there's a doable project here. I can't say that I don't think there's something that can be built here. I just think that the idea of flipping the house just seems very productive for us, for the conservation's concerns. I don't have a problem with the house going there. I don't see any reason why a house can't go there.
Can I ask another question?
Sure.
Hey, John, see that it says 30 foot, and I'm assuming that's oak, that is where it says proposed erosion control down by the back corner of the house. Yep, down a little bit. Yeah, right there.
Yeah.
What's the likelihood that that tree is actually going to have to come down, because in a couple of years in a windstorm, the limbs or the homeowner is going to be nervous that it's going to, fall on their kid's bedroom, because we typically get that scenario. So I'm not based on the fact that it looks like the canopy is already at the corner of the house.
Yeah, I mean, that oak tree has a pretty, oak trees tend to have a pretty well-defined drip edge, and I don't see that that's necessarily an issue.
You don't think it'll become an issue?
Well, someday that tree's gonna die.
True. Yes, it is.
And oaks, as we know, do get eaten often from the inside out. And it's a good call out.
What are we gonna do? I mean,
I think it's worthwhile looking at the alternative we discussed.
Flipping the house?
Yeah,
But flipping the house won't, there'll still be, the house will be right, the corner of the house will be right there still, right?
yeah, part of it will be less of it, but the big gain there is the reduction in,
Yes, no, I agree, in the driveway.
yeah. And less work along that edge.
So is the major concern the amount of impervious area, and the proposal to flip the house would reduce the amount of impervious area by 20% maybe? We don't know that, but let's say that's a guess, by 20%. And there's a plan to handle the stormwater runoff from the proposed impervious area. So flipping the house to save, let's say 20%, is that worth?
Oh, to-
If you kept the same amount of chambers, you'd end up with far more gain in capacity for those chambers by reducing the impervious area.
Did you guys talk about plowing at all? Because most likely they'll probably just plow straight forward, right?
yeah, That's
I
true.
don't know. Did you guys talk about that?
No,
No,
I mean, I know you can condition it and that's fine. Just wondering if you talked about it.
yeah, I mean, you could put a berm along that edge if it were to stay.
Hmm.
You wouldn't be able to plow straight across, but it would make plowing very difficult. But that is another good point. If you flip the driveway, you wouldn't be pushing all that snow towards the stream. And that's a lot of volume.
Well, Bob, could we ask you to take another look at this, to change this orientation somewhat? Are you willing to look at that? Or,
Willing to look at changing the orientation of the house
yes,
and to bring you another plan that shows the house flipped with maybe 20% less impervious area, and you say, oh yeah, we'll approve that, and that's not really what we want? I'm not sure.
you're not sure that you want to look at rotating the house?
I'm happy to look at rotating the house, but I'm not happy if you come back and say, for a small percentage of reduction of impervious area. we need-
20% isn't really small. 20% is almost a quarter. It's not, I mean, 25%, then it's substantial. I don't think that's not substantial.
Well, I didn't say it was not substantial, but I did say that I think we have a plan to take care of all of the runoff. And maybe if you think we need an improved plan to take care of all the stormwater runoff, then we should address that. But I'd hate to come back to you with a plan that says the house is flipped, which is not the orientation we really want. And you guys say, yeah, that's great, let's go ahead. Because if I show you that plan, you're gonna say, yeah, that's great, let's go ahead.
Well, I
So
think,
is there something else that we can do to mitigate this issue of increased impervious area that doesn't involve flipping the house?
well, you make the house a little smaller. That would do it too.
Right.
Why would that make a difference?
Smaller footprint.
Smaller footprint of the house, yeah.
Why would a smaller footprint increase or decrease the impervious area? That seems to be your issue.
Why would it?
Yeah.
Because you have less house.
That entire footprint is impervious, as is the pavement. So a smaller house would result in less impervious area, or a smaller driveway, or additional chambers. Any of those combinations.
Well, what about additional chambers?
I think the goal would be to get the activities away from
Right. In addition,
our resource areas, and that wouldn't do it.
so the purpose would be twofold: to decrease the impervious area, and as Jim just said, move away the activity further away from the resource area.
I'm sorry, can you tell me where the activity is relative to the resource area?
Well, anything you do that's, within, that's close to the resource area. So if you have less activity by the resource area, that's less activity.
So you're referring to the activity in the driveway?
The driveway or the building of a house that's closer to that area. Anything that's closer to that area.
But excuse me, I think we're inside the 25-foot area, aren't we?
And we already talked about that. That's a policy, but that's not, we look at each site as as it comes to us and see how we can, what we can do to protect the interest of the act. So it's not hard and set in stone.
Oh, I see. So it depends.
Correct. It does depend.
And usually what does it depend on?
On the conditions at the site and what you're proposing.
I think most of the time too, the 25-foot setback is for like the closest activity, which typically isn't the side of a house. So usually the closest activity is if they propose a retaining wall, it's usually the base of the retaining wall, or if they want to clear the land, is usually to the extent that they clear it, or whatever. If they want to fill, it's usually to the extent that they fill. Because realistically, there will be, we live on all sides of our house, and there'll be things happening on all sides of the house. So I think that potentially may be where it's coming into a little bit of a conflict. Similarly, not typically a driveway at the 25-foot. Now, that's not to say that it can't. It's just saying, I think that the confusion lies right now that it's usually the closest activity, meaning that from the 25-foot to the edge of the wetland would be undisturbed, whereas this wouldn't be undisturbed because it's right on the edge of the usage of the property or the house and the driveway. And I think that's what it sounds like to me, where possibly the confusion might be.
So are you suggesting that activity on that side of the house, not the driveway, but that side of the house, the activity would be just the building of the house?
No, I'm saying typically that whatever homeowners do at their home is usually all around the vicinity of their property, whether that be gardening, lawn mowing, basketball hoop, storing your lawnmower, whatever the case may be. Typically the 25-foot is there to protect the wetland itself, and that any activity doesn't have a negative impact. So that's, I think, where there's a little bit of trouble, because you can assume that over the course of living there, as you would, that things will happen within that 25-foot zone. And typically the 25-foot is to get a no disturb or no activity zone. And that's not realistic when you put the side of a house at the 25-foot. Does that make more sense?
Yeah, somewhat, I guess, but
All right.
I think the activities that might occur there aren't going to disturb anything. I mean, that's a blank side of the house.
For now, yeah, I guess. But I mean, realistically, it'll be maintained. You're not going to not maintain the side of your house.
Yeah, you might paint it once in a while and lay down some mulch, but I don't think that's going to disturb anything.
No, I don't either. Nope. But so you're saying it'll be left in a natural vegetated state
That's the plan.
up to the edge of the house? No mowing?
Not that I can say.
All right. I can say that from my experience, just in working for the commission for a number of years, most of the time people do mow all the way around their house. And I bet, sometimes properties change hands and people might not understand what was negotiated at the time, but it's pretty realistic to think that there will be some type of living activity, which is just very normal on that side of the house within that area. Now, what it is, I'm not really sure, but I don't think it's realistic to think that it's going to remain in a natural vegetated state.
Right, logically, you would think it's gonna get landscaped and, you know, who knows what else. Somebody may want to put a basketball court over there at some point, or a pool or something. And there's no space to do anything right now between the edge of the house and the bank.
Well, I dare say if there was a pool over there, we'd have to go before the ZBA for that, wouldn't we?
I think I was just trying to clarify about the buffer area between the wetland and the activity, just because it seemed to be going back and forth a little bit.
Yeah, I understand your point.
Thank you.
So where do we go from here?
I think if you could consolidate some of this driveway and minimize the amount of area of driveway by rotating the house or flipping the house or something, or at least getting the driveway portion away from the 25-foot setback area. I mean, the driveways, as far as water quality, is pretty much dirty water, not like a roof. The roof's considered clean water because of all the grease and stuff that come off the cars. It'd be good to not have that stuff going directly to the bank. So anything you did with respect to that, like removing that driveway so that the cars wouldn't be in that area, you can see would be beneficial to us or conservation concerns.
Would the commission be open to, if we took basically along the edge of the proposed driveway, added essentially a stone trench, something that would give some sort of treatment for it, either discharge into the ground or.
Yeah,
Is that something that can help mitigate this?
personally, my experience with these leaching chambers or whatever you want to call them, they usually all fail at some point. I mean, I can see that's a positive thing though, John. I do think that's positive. But that would be my concern with it. They get all crapped up with silt and stuff over the years, but it does take years.
Yeah, I mean, I think we could address that in the sense of taking that, essentially a stone trench, wrapping in filter fabric, and
Yeah.
then some sort of a pea stone on top of that
Right.
fabric, which
Yeah.
would make it easier to maintain.
Yeah. I mean, that's a plus. I don't know if that's a plus for everyone else, but I think that's a reasonable thing to think about.
Yeah, definitely an improvement.
Yeah, I know we briefly talked about snow plowing, but what would you do with your snow with the driveway like that? You have to get it off the driveway to get your car into the turnaround. You have a snow blower?
Yeah, the plow is just gonna plow, you know how a plow goes. The plow just goes right down and pushes it right up against the river. You know that, that's a lock. I mean, there's only one way to plow a driveway like that.
Well, unless he uses a snow blower.
Yeah, but.
These are things you can't control. You don't know what people are gonna use. They might bring in a bobcat or something. I don't know.
Still, yeah. Wow, it's gonna come straight down the street and just keep going straight.
Well, your point would be that if we had conditioned this, we would condition it on not having a snow removal area, in the, between the edge of the driveway and the river. Is that right?
Yeah, but the problem with that is you can condition all you want, but what
I
that's in.
I understand that you would condition that, but I guess what I'm saying to the owner is that we would expect that would be the that would be, I think, an expected condition. Not going to use that area between the end of the driveway and the river as a snow removal area. Whereas if the driveway were up closer, if the driveway were, as the original driveway, that's not an issue. So there is actually an advantage, a practical advantage, assuming that, compliance, there's a real advantage to not bringing the driveway right up to the point where you can't clear it in the other direction. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
The town plows that right of way now, but they only plow down to the border of the existing driveway. I expect they wouldn't go any further than that.
the border of what is it? Where would that be then?
So the end of the dark gray.
Yeah,
Because now you would have the right to pave that area as well, the right of way. Correct?
correct.
So that's another, there's a lot of things that are very hard to anticipate.
It's
Yeah,
al- that's already paved to the end of that
Well,
dark gray.
May I ask right now, where does the plows go now? How far down do the plows go?
To the edge of the dark.
To the end of the dark gray.
Yeah, so they're plowing they're plowing essentially most of the driveway here. You know what I mean? If you look
The
at it that way.
existing driveway, not the
That's right.
proposed
They're
driveway.
plowing the existing, I guess what I'm saying is they're plowing the existing driveway. They're not taking into account that the property line ends there. They're plowing to the edge of the pavement, and they're going to continue to plow probably to the pavement, which means that they're going to plow everything right into the, right into the river or to the water. I mean, if they're doing what they're going to do, they're plowing till they don't, plowing the blacktop in front of them till the blacktop bends. The implication of that is that all that's going to go right into the, that's all going to go right into the river. Whatever you
Right,
call
they're
it.
not gonna see that as a driveway. It's gonna look like it's a continuation of the road.
Well, that's what they see the existing driveway. They view
Right.
as a continuation of the road. That's all I'm saying. It's the exact same. That's what they're doing. And you know what? It makes sense. I would do the same thing if I were a plow driver. All I'm saying is that from a practical matter, just looking at the configuration of the driveway, that we as a commission, it just seems to me obvious how that snow is going to be plowed. I mean, it's not easy to take all that snow, push it off to the left of the right, to push it off to the right side of the property, the old right of way, wherever. That's hard.
Peter, what you're saying is that as opposed to the homeowner doing it, the town will be doing it.
Either the town will do it or the homeowners. It seems like I guess all I'm saying is that it's a situation that you know what's going to happen. That's all I'm saying.
Right, if an additional area is paved, right.
I can't tell you what the town plow driver is going to do.
I
But
understand.
I
We have
can
to-
tell you that it would be our intention to snow blow all of that proposed driveway. Because that's what we do now.
the fact is that there's nothing to say that someone couldn't get in there at some future time and decide to plow it all the time. Maybe you're gonna sell the house and other people are gonna do things differently. I don't know. It's hard to anticipate that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Can we give him some idea of what we're looking for that would, in one shot, that he could, that when he comes back, like he says, he's not gonna be turned away? Is there something really outstanding that people are interested in so that we can, we should probably try to resolve this and move on. Those are two issues I see is minimizing the amount of driveways, the only one way to put it. And I think the snow plowing conditions are another little bit of a stumbling block. Other than that, I don't see anything wrong with this. And by minimizing the driveway area, I'm thinking that the house would have to be flipped. I could be totally wrong. Because I think you can, there's so many different configurations of houses these days, you could find something.
Well, I think outside of the snow plowing issue, John agreed or thought it was a good idea when John suggested a stone trench on the border of the driveway.
Yeah, I'm a little bit negative on that, only because I look at the size of the there's things that we can't control, like plowing, or, well, mostly plowing in that area. I mean, yes, John presented a good option. I think a better option would be to get the driveway out of that area. So. Can we come to some consensus here?
I would be in favor of what you suggest, Jim, as a way, and to see a new plan showing, again, we can't tell them how to design the house, but showing, less pavement and less pavement closest to the line.
Mhm. Okay. Does anyone else have any comments?
I think that makes sense.
With your permission, we would like to continue this. And unless you have anything else that you want to add, or other ideas for us to think about, we can think about them right now if you have something else that you can think of.
I don't have anything else. Do you, John?
No, I just want to confirm the commission wasn't too interested in the idea of doing some sort of, pervious pavers or something along lines where we get infiltration in the proposed paved driveway area.
All right, well, let's talk about that then. So what does everyone think about previous pavers?
I mean, they do have a good application, but it's not going to result in a reduction of plowing in this area or the pushing of snow and everything else towards the stream.
Okay, that's true.
And what if the house, I don't know where the property line is here, but if the house extended towards the proposed driveway, and then the driveway ran into the garage straight in instead of doing the 90-degree turn, I don't know if you've got the setback on the side or front, to configure it that way. Sliding the house to the right.
You mean slide the house closer to the right of way?
Yeah, then you're pulling straight into the driveway, into the house garage, essentially without the 90-degree turn. And that would prevent any activity from a plowing standpoint occurring on the other side of that line.
Mhm. Your point is if you oriented the house a little bit more toward the orientation of the original house and then extended the L, you could drive right into the driveway.
Straight, yeah.
Yeah, drive straight in and you're not going to plow through the back of the garage. That just eliminates that whole issue, right?
Correct. That's what I'm thinking. Again, I don't know if you get the setbacks to do that or orientation, but it's an idea.
It would be like swiveling it just a little bit to the, yeah, I understand what you're saying.
I mean, it looks like you have, what do you need for a front setback, 20 feet or 25?
The front is 20.
And I'm not sure what you're showing there, probably closer to 25 at the corner of the garage, 30 maybe. Take the corner of the garage closest to the stream and go straight out to the property line. End up with a bigger backyard.
Yeah, it's about, the closest corner of the garage to the right of way is about 37 feet.
Okay. So there might be something you could do there.
I guess, I'm looking at keeping a similar footprint, again, it might be advantageous to rotate this, but that's gonna pull that left rear corner of the house closer to the 25-foot in that back area. So it would pull it away from the front, but it might bring it closer to in the rear. I don't know if that really is a solution.
Okay. Any other ideas?
Well, hate to advocate for a larger house, but if you extended that garage straight out in the same direction without rotating the house, and you did have the ability to pull straight in, so your garage essentially would be rotated 90 degrees. And you'd be pulling straight into it rather than turning in. So you'd end up with actually a bigger footprint for the house without rotating it. You'd gain what, about 12 more feet towards the property line of house. 12 by whatever that is, 14, 18, I don't know what that is. Garage. Is that doable? Is that possible?
That's a question for John.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying, John? You don't rotate the house at all. You extend the garage section to the right towards the property line so that you pull straight into the garage without turning into the garage. You actually gain a bigger house, but you've blocked now any possibility of plowing towards the stream is my idea.
Bob, are you saying after flipping?
No, I'm saying as an option not to flip
No
and not to
flip.
rotate.
Just to
Just
make that bigger?
Yeah, it's just exactly. Extend the garage out that direction, just like that. So you're pulling straight into the garage and there'll be no plowing towards the other side. Homeowner gets a bigger house and we get more protection.
Yeah, probably a 30% more cost.
Put a triple bay garage there.
Okay. John, anything you want to say?
Nope.
Okay. Do you want to continue this? I don't know what time it is.
So what I'm hearing basically is we have to come up with a plan that shows less pavement that's less close to the line. And it's up to us to figure out how to do that by flipping, turning, extending, etc. I think that's what you're all saying.
Right. And you understand that we're trying to get the driveway pavement in a configuration that you're not gonna push it towards the stream. Right?
Mhm.
Okay. All right,
So, can I do a motion to continue?
well, we can ask the applicant, will you agree to a continuation? I need an answer from someone,
Who would you like to answer?
the applicant.
Well, I don't see any other choice.
So is that,
You're not gonna pass this, so I guess we have to come up with something else.
okay, I'm gonna take that as a yes.
All right, so John, you're gonna look at some options?
Yeah, obviously this is, a lot of it's gonna have to deal with the architect in terms of what's gonna work with the house.
Right, and you'll possibly have a ZBA hearing before you see us again anyways.
Correct. Although if we do make some of these changes to the house, it may affect that approval.
Correct. Yeah, it may actually help you also there. Okay,
All right, do I have a motion to continue the hearing?
I already made that motion.
Okay, can I second it?
you can second it. Okay, is that a second?
Yes,
All right, Ken,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Silvana,
Yes.
Jimmy,
yes,
and Teresa,
Yes.
and yes, by me.
okay.
Okay, we're gonna move on. Next hearing is DEP 313603. This is a continuation public hearing for 3 Andrews Road. Notice of intent for the construction of an addition and stairs within the BVW. And John is right back with us. All right, I do remember there was 3 items I think we were looking for. Or we talked about dewatering plan. I think a plan for plantings in the back. And was there something else?
Yeah, it was moving the erosion control up
Yeah,
gradient some.
correct.
So basically this, we submitted a revised plan, moved the erosion control up gradient some. We added a detail for dewatering. And as far as plantings, we looked at creating kind of bushes along the edge of the existing BVW. We're proposing a mixture of high bush blueberries and silky dogwood in this area. And then speaking with Libby Wallace in our office, we had some concerns about this kind of being underneath this tree.
Mhm.
So we changed that over to Summer Sweet. They're able to handle a little more less shady areas. So that's basically what we were proposing as far as creating kind of a vegetative delineation of the wetland. And I think those are basically the 3 things that are reflected in this plan.
Okay. The email revised plan on this. Okay. This is the revised plan, right? And Rebecca, do you have comments about this?
No, I don't have any specific comments. I think the revised plan was based on the last meeting of which I wasn't there.
Right,
Um,
okay.
I think you guys have been to the site, right?
Yes, we've been to the site and I'm gonna, my opinion is I have no problems with this project. So I think there's not much I can say about it. I think in my mind, everything has been pretty well covered.
I think so.
I agree.
I agree. I was at the site visit. This looks good to me.
So that being said, do we have a motion to close?
Yes.
Is there a second?
Yes.
Okay, Jimmy,
Yes,
Teresa,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Silvana,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
and I also vote to close.
what the heck is that? My dog's the quietest out of them all.
Do we want to issue a standard order of conditions or hold off, seeing that we're so far behind?
Why don't we hold off? Because Elaine, Elaine looked at this, right?
Yes.
I don't know if she has any comments and she's not available right now. As
And I
far
would
as,
like, and I would like to hear what she has to, I would like to hear what she has to say about how the restoration of that wetland area.
well, maybe we shouldn't have closed the hearing.
Well, she was on the last call and we discussed that restoration and the planting plan. And we talked about high bush blueberry and some other native species.
Is it implicit in that there will be no mowing and will there be any,
Well, yeah, that's,
the question I have is if you plant high bush blueberry in a mowed area right now, what is that gonna mean? In other words, I guess my point is that this is gonna be like overgrown lawn with an invitation to be cut, or is the grass gonna be taken out and replaced with, with an area that can look nice without having to be maintained.
Well, if it's not maintained from the planting area back, it will likely restore itself over time.
Well, let me ask you this. If you had your lawn and you just never mowed it, what would it look like? It would just look like wouldn't it be horrible? And I guess I'm trying to understand what it means for something realistically to be restored to a point where someone isn't going to take a lawn tractor and start mowing it.
well, that's always a possibility, Peter, but what are you gonna do?
I don't know. I just didn't know if that was part of the planting plan.
Yeah.
Was to dig up the garden variety grass
Yeah,
and to not only put in wetlands plants, but to take out the kind of grass that everyone wants to mow.
Wasn't part of what we discussed previously, right?
Okay. No, I just want to, that's all I wanted to do was, all I wanted to do was make sure that I didn't know if that's details that we can discuss after the hearing is closed as part of the order of
well,
condition.
you wanna open the hearing, we can,
Well, we can
Not too late.
condition, you can condition that, we've already talked about no further activity from that planting position back.
hmm. Right,
We've already had that discussion. There'd be no activities for
Okay.
the plantings further back. So we can add that as a condition, just so it's
Hey
clear.
guys, this is Meredith Hurley. I'm actually the owner of the property. We actually bought the house about 3 years ago and we didn't know it was wetlands up to where it was. And we have no problem not mowing, that area, putting the bushes in. We actually had a house fire and displaced for about 4 months now. So we're trying to get our life back, and we have a lot of the inside that we have to take care of. And this is a huge part of getting that done. My daughter's going to kindergarten. Like, if we get this approved, I promise you, I will not mow that. You know, the bushes will go up, whatever you guys decide to do. We just want to get our life back, and if you guys could help us out, we really appreciate it.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, again, we can condition that to that point.
So I say we just, I guess what the point, everyone seems comfortable with closing the hearing and just putting a condition that it won't be disturbed. Is that what I'm cleaning?
Yeah.
And when we
That's the
talk
way
about the order of conditions, I see in the minutes that we said a condition would be that the restoration work or would be completed prior to construction.
Yeah,
I'm fine with that as well. We could definitely do that.
I think we could just talk about the conditions the next time with, and hopefully Elaine will be on with us.
Okay, so we'll close the hearing now and talk about conditions at the next meeting.
Well, we've already closed.
Right.
close to hearing, yeah.
So,
So we'll
yes,
talk
we've already
about
closed.
conditions at the next meeting, yeah.
Okay, so we're good then.
Okay,
So John, you got all that, right?
Get all that.
Yep. So we're good with everything presented, good with the existing plan. We've closed the hearing and we'll talk about conditions at the next hearing.
Yep.
Okay,
Okay.
all right.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. All right, moving on. Next, we have DEP 313600, which is 100 Hemlock Road.
Hi, this is Andrea Kendall with LEC, and Michelle Callahan from Niche is
Andrea and Michelle.
tonight. So a couple of updates. Thanks for the site walk on May 16th. I left that meeting with a couple of more tangible things to do. We're still working on the revised plans, which will not only show the updates per Oxbow's revised flag locations at those discrete areas, but it's also going to convey a specific on-site area near the entrance to the school where the on-site wetlands were not flagged. So we'll add that note, labeling the wetland 5 as a certifiable vernal pool, labeling, I'm forgetting, I think it's wetland 2 as the non-certifiable vernal pool. This is all according to natural heritage. And also show the concentrated flow paths that we observed on site originating from the transmission line right of way from the compacted, from more of the springtime flows. What I also wanted, and I think that was it, but what I also wanted to follow up on, there was 2 questions. I provided a letter this afternoon. It was a little late. I don't know if it made it to you all, but the first one was, there was a question about whether there was an on-site isolated area up in the woodlands adjacent to the path that we observed some rutting in. And I had conveyed that I had looked at that area as part of the overall site recon, and I did, based on the vegetation and soils, it did not qualify as a wetland. There is nuance to that. So I provided the soil data in the letter that that classifies this as not a non-hydric soil. So they're very discrete soil colors that we're looking at, and profiles and textures. So that didn't make it in. In addition, there was more of a mixture of upland and wetland vegetation in there. So it wasn't, didn't meet that 50% wetland plant criteria. So wanted to convey that. The second thing is, as we headed down from that area down towards wetland 3, 3A, wetland 1 and 2, like when we got to the right of way, we did notice the flow paths on site. And I had conveyed that upgradient, I'll call them streams that are upgradient from any wetlands are not jurisdictional as a stream containing a bank or land underwater. And I had conveyed that I looked upgradient and adjacent within the woodlands, didn't observe any wetlands. So I also provided soil data in that letter that documents non-hydric soils in the woodland right against that stream area, well, that, of concentrated flow to demonstrate that a wetland adjacent to that. We are going to show that on the plan for informational purposes, so we can expect that. So based on that, I wasn't sure if there are any other questions relative to what I provided. I did provide the regulatory citation of what is a definition of a jurisdictional stream in accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act. So they give very specific criteria for that.
Thank you, Andrea. Anybody have any questions or concerns?
And Andrew, so you're just the last thing you just owe us is the revised plan then, right? You said?
Right, yeah, unfortunately, there's been a bit of delay on that on our team's end. So what if there are no other questions or things to discuss, maybe one option is the commission considering closing the hearing, issuing the order with a condition that that we will be submitting. We have to, obviously submit the revised plans, and then it would be more administratively checking to make sure it has everything that was previously discussed.
I just have a couple questions, a couple comments, and I'll try to keep it all to this, the markings, delineation, and everything that went on. First, I'd like to thank the Conservation Committee and Andrea for having the neighborhood, myself, and the butters, the few of us that came for this sidewalk. I thought it was informative, educational, and important to this process. I want to thank you for the time you spent. There's other meetings I've been to with the Northeast group, and some reports that I've looked at. And I don't know if it's pertinent or it is, but when we talked about that culvert where the wetland section comes in and the water carries it off. I did talk to a couple of the Northeast engineers and the architect people, and they mentioned that report stated that the stormwater on site also allows some of the stormwater to infiltrate into the ground, and the pipe outlets from the subsurface infiltration systems would direct stormwater overflows to existing wetlands. That's going to change the water pattern. Is that something that we need to be concerned about now, or should that be a main concern to us as this project goes on?
Well, we don't have that in front of us, so we really can't comment on it. But I'm curious, are you talking about the culvert that's on your?
Yeah, the
street?
culvert. Actually, I dropped some photos off earlier today. I don't know if you got them. I also, at the meeting, Steve Mayo was there, and he wanted to get a copy of the photos, so I dropped them off to him and to the Conservation Committee. Unfortunately, no one was there this morning when I dropped them off, and they said they would pass them on. But you can see the excessive amount of water that when it's blocked there. The kind of issue I have is when we talk to the engineers at Northeastern and the project manager, they said that their responsibility ends there. So to me, when they were talking about in the report, having more overflow water go into the existing wetlands, you're creating more of a flood problem for not only June Circle, but the other houses in the area where the flooding occurs.
So you're talking about the culvert that goes under June Circle?
Correct. The pictures I mentioned where there was excessive amount of flooding there. They mentioned that if the responsibility ends there, then they have no jurisdiction. We'd have to talk to the DPW. And it showed, although the pictures were older, the pictures were taken in 2001. We have not had that kind of flooding since that period of time because of the lack of snow, the lack of running, the water has not been as great as that. That was the worst case scenario at that point in time. It was approximately a foot of water deep in the middle of June Circle, all the way from the middle of my driveway all the way out to the street and up towards Farm Street.
So I guess a couple things, since we don't actually have a project in front of us, we can't see what you're referring to, but we did see the culvert you're mentioning and the fact that it's not very clear where it does go under the street.
Correct.
So, I mean, different issue, kind of, than this project, but it looks like there needs to be some maintenance to that culvert no matter what. Whether this project happens or not, it looks like there needs to be some maintenance done there.
Right, before any project starts, the infrastructure from that, and if they do start any kind of construction, that should be taken care of.
I mean, that should be taken care of anyways, regardless of this project, I think. You know, it's not necessarily, it's not part of this project. It's a separate issue right now, but it should be addressed by the DPW, I would think. Anybody else have a comment about that?
I agree. But
They do address it when they take their truck and they ride by, they look up and then they drive away.
No, it looks like the end of that culvert is kind of blocked. It's not
Yeah.
flowing the way it should be.
Correct.
you can try to take it up with DPW right now, Bob.
Maybe Steve will take care of it when I show him the pictures.
Yeah,
Bob,
they
that-
should. Go ahead, Jimmy.
You first.
I was gonna say that should be an issue they should be addressing.
Bob, that culvert, was that flowing when we looked at it that day?
Very, very little. It was more blocked off, I think, because when we
There was-
looked at it, the water level was at the top of the pipe, and I believe the pipe is about 10 inches in diameter, 8 to 10
Yeah.
inches.
Does that
Yeah.
flow throughout the year?
Pardon?
Does that flow throughout the year or does it
Yeah.
dry up?
Constantly. And when you have water that comes down from the hill, the south side, it comes rushing down, fills that whole wetlands area, and that's where the drain off point
Okay,
is.
but that's, all right, so this is what I'm trying to get at. We looked at that drainage, that wetland area, right?
Correct.
And we saw all the leaves and debris and it looked like
Correct.
the water was flowing down and does the water flow out of it?
It flows out at
Land.
a very, very slow pace.
But it does it have a stream on the downhill sides that carries it to the culvert?
I don't know if you call it a stream. It's pretty much spread throughout the area or in the wetlands. But once it gets to that point, when they pulled, DPW was up there, one of the engineers pulled the cover off the drain and could see a trickle coming down. So there is some water flowing,
Yeah,
not
but
100%.
I'm talking about where we were standing at that,
Jim, you're talking further
Yeah.
back up into the woods.
right, I'm talking further into the woods. Where we stood where the fence was and looked
Yeah.
at the, looked at
Oh, the water comes in there. The water that fits in that whole wetlands area there comes right to there, and that's the only
But
drain.
is it coming from that wetland area? Does it come, can you see a
Yes.
path where it comes down to where it discharges and you've got that problem with the pipe?
Correct. It all comes down throughout the whole area.
Andrea, you still here?
I am. I'm trying to understand what the question is, so.
Well, I'm wondering, why wouldn't that be considered a stream from the inlet side of that wet area, that
So
from that point, from the uphill point, why wouldn't that be the start of a stream?
the uphill point of the BVW?
Yeah, you know where we've got that little BBW,
Yeah.
it seems
So
to
they-
have an outlet, according to Bob. And the inlet
Right.
would be the tributary paths that you see the water come down. So wouldn't it be a stream from the point where the water is continuous?
So I want to describe what I have observed, and I don't know if we're in alignment with the question is.
Mhm.
Wetland 1 is more of like a flooded red maple swamp.
Mhm.
They're very diffuse flow paths. It's more flooded. It doesn't become concentrated flow until about 15 feet up gradient from that culvert at June Circle, where it is confined by like an embankment, like more
Right,
a man-made embankment. That's in my opinion where the intermittent stream starts.
But according to the regulations, doesn't it start at the transition point that it becomes flowing all the time?
Well, I don't know if I would call, it's not mapped as perennial stream.
And I know that you can have banks that are really just like we saw up there. There's like,
Are you talking in the wetland?
no, I'm talking in
Up
front of the wetland.
gradient.
We followed it down. See, I don't know which one we were at, but when we followed it down, you could see where the water, looked like a good amount of water flows. It's at some point in the year. But then when it hits that wetland, then the water is continuous at that point.
It's not a continuous stream channel in the
But on
wetland.
the downhill side, it's flowing to that culvert.
It's kind of like a flooded system, and then and then it concentrates right at the point 10, 15 feet up
So you're saying that's
gradient of the culvert.
okay, so you're saying that's a stream from that 10 or 15
Intermittent
feet
stream
up.
from that point, yeah.
And you say it's a stream because of what? Because of why?
The BVW, well, it's a 15-foot stream that is down gradient of a BVW. It is a confined, narrow float, a channel,
But why couldn't the BBW itself be the stream?
because there could be interior of of the BVW, a stream. For our purposes, there's no reason to further delineate that.
Yeah.
What we're interested is in the outermost boundary of the resource area.
No, I know, but for us, it's all about finding the resource areas on the property. So whether you're gonna use them or not, or be in
Well,
conflict.
we're asking for, you can say that there are other interior resource areas that have not been delineated, but we're asking the commission to approve those resource areas. We're asking for a very discrete determination.
Which is what?
If in your ORAD, you want to convey that there are other resource areas that have not been delineated.
I get that, Andrea, we will have to do that because I think that there is areas, this bank that we wasn't delineated. There was that lower stream on coming up the hill to the school that all in that area was bank, and there's definitely a stream there. But I just think that down that other end, I'm interested in what you're saying about your determination of where you think the stream started and doesn't stop. Even though you may not use it, I think it's important to identify it and may get used at and because once we approve it, how do we locate it? You gonna put it on a plan and so that we know where those things are?
Well, it's for if it becomes necessary for the project purpose.
Yeah,
So for example, I've worked on projects where we've delineated the BVW associated with a stream,
right,
had that approved. And then the project, there was a realization that they wanted to cross the BVW,
right,
and we had to go back out there to further delineate the bank
right,
to understand the interior resources,
right,
to understand further impacts.
right.
So that's a scenario that we would have to come back
Mhm.
to have that approved as far as part of maybe the NOI process or through
Yeah.
another ANRAD.
Okay. So you're basically looking for us to agree with the BVW delineation.
Correct. And there are other portions of the site where our orange flags coincided in discrete areas with bank. It's really the outermost resource area that we were concerned with. In some instances, it was the BVW. In some instances, it was the bank. We did delineate the bank with blue flags where that was, for example, out of wetland 3, for example.
What you're saying is that there was no need to show wetlands, protected areas within other protected areas that were larger, basically.
Yeah, they're inside those other
Right, inside, exactly. So
Yeah.
Okay. That's my question for right now.
So I guess back to Bob Brooks's question, it looks like that culvert needs some maintenance, some work by DPW. It didn't appear to be clear when we looked at it, and water was pooling in front of it, though it was probably lower than the pipe. But it looks like DPW should be looking at that. Whether this project happened or not, or happens or not, that's a DPW issue that should be addressed.
And I think it should be addressed before any kind of, proposed construction nature begins. Because if construction does, and then it causes more flooding problems, again, depending on, proposed tree clearing, proposed, stone and road work and so forth, it's going to change the water level to a greater demand for drainage in that area, especially if the area is not flowing correctly, or there's a more abundance of water added to that area from runoff.
So did you say you've already contacted the DPW?
I haven't contacted DPW. I just dropped I talked to Steve Mayo yesterday, and the DPW has been up there a couple months ago because one of my neighbors had excessive water area, and one house there has water coming directly under them whenever there's rain, like the other night, and because the houses are built on the rock and ledge. Mine is, and neighbors are. The water just seeps underneath the house, and that starts coming out at the street level.
Yeah, you end up with like a sheet flow over the ledge. That's what happens.
Yeah, and then like I said, with the DPW, they're aware of it. One of the DPW guys came back and spent the day clearing the brush, but of course it all comes back, and with the water level, more leaves and brush and this, sediment gets in there, and almost as if the pipe is too small for the amount of water run that comes out there that drains out that area. So it's possible Steve may follow up on it. I don't know. He just got the pictures today, and that way he could see what the worst case scenario was, which we haven't had since. excessive amount of backup there.
Was that, I forget, was that on your property or your neighbor's property?
That was being my neighbor, both of my neighbors, two abutters.
Okay. I mean, they certainly can, pull leaves and debris out of there as they're,
Yeah, they've done it.
Yeah.
I've gone by there, pulled some stuff out before myself too.
okay. All right, so definitely I would suggest contacting DPW again. But it's certainly a good point. And it looks like there does need to be something that happened with that culvert.
Yeah, and then again, one of the issues that we brought up too is that during the proposed report of the proposed or non-proposed construction site, they talked about stormwater overflows that they were going to put in, and the water was going to go to existing wetlands. And since this non-proposed building is uphill from us, that means the water's going to run downhill, which means it's going to run into that wetlands that we speak of right now, that is right directly behind the house.
So since we haven't seen a plan, obviously we can't comment on that.
No, I understand.
But that is something we certainly will be thinking about and asking those.
In the future,
questions.
so that could be brought between in front of the conservation committee if it becomes an issue.
Correct.
Yeah, because how would something like this be monitored? Or whose responsibility would it be?
Well, the idea is to prevent the condition from occurring in the first place and to ensure that the situations are mitigated to prevent that from happening.
It's to prevent it from being worse.
For sure. Yes, that would be the idea, to prevent it from being worse.
Okay.
Anything else?
Not for me right now.
Any other questions from the commission right now? Or concerns?
I still have concerns about this stream. I feel like there's so much water coming down there that like Bob is saying, he still gets water running and it doesn't dry up. So it's getting fed somewhere because it hasn't rained for quite a while. And
So are you saying there's a resource area that's not identified?
no, she identified the BBW resource, which is what they said they were going to identify. And like she said, we can stipulate that that's all we're agreeing with is the BBW.
Well, it's an ANRAD, right? Just agreeing on the lines, right? We're not agreeing on.
Right.
There.
But
I mean, yes, these are things that I think are going to come into play absolutely when the project proposed.
Yeah, I
But
know.
all I'm getting at is what is it that lines on a map is all we're really dealing with today, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, there could be springs feeding that culvert. There could be,
Could be all that stuff, right?
could be other factors, but it
I
could be
just don't
spring
want
fed.
that to get left behind.
No, agreed.
That do we have some concerns about by resource areas?
Well, I mean, Andrew knows better than me. I'm just going through the regulations and looking at streams and how they're made and how they connect up. And I think that wet area could be a stream connecting up to the culvert that goes out under Bob's backyard, which is always flowing, he said.
Yeah, I think one of the things too, which is unseen is, as I mentioned, my house is built on ledge because my neighbor next to me has lived there before my house was even built. And his house is on ledge in a lot of them. And you get these underwater streams because there's so much ledge and the water's going through it. We don't even know exactly where it's at. We just know that, if we have excessive amount of rain, the water level definitely goes up. There was one time when the water level in my basement went up 6 inches down the basement. My son said, "Dad, you better get down here and take a look at it." And it just comes up.
Yeah.
But the only thing that keeps that out, is a sump pump. Once it reaches its level, it'll, keep the water, out of the house.
Yeah,
But there's a lot of houses like that. We don't know where it's all coming in from. We just know that the water tables are excessively high down there.
yeah,
But,
right.
and it's not necessarily the water tables, but again, if your houses are built on ledge, water does flow over ledge. And of course, we'll seek the low point. So there could be springs, it could be just flow coming across the ledge from the upland areas, coming down through that neighborhood too.
I guess it's in the wording. I think we just gotta be careful how we word it. I mean, we're gonna vote on this thing, correct?
I would think so. I don't see why not.
I don't know if Rebecca, do you have any wording that would cover us? I mean, other than saying this delineation is only for BBW. I mean, I guess that's about,
Yeah, I think Andrea mentioned what may be the thing that you're looking for is to make the statement that you're only approving the lines that are on the plan, and there could be some other jurisdictional areas or some resource areas that haven't been defined or included on the plan, and then they may not be included. Is that what you were saying, Andrea?
yeah.
To
Yeah,
include
that
the
there-
BBW, and there could be bank, but we're not, you didn't ask for approval of bank, so it's not on the plan.
Well, I am asking for approval of bank as it relates to wetland 3, which has a channel that exits there. So I guess what I would,
But that's on the plan, right?
yeah,
Yeah, and that was
That's what I
flagged as
mean. That's what
bank.
you're approving what's shown on the plan.
correct.
But I guess we've had this controversy before, that when you
Right.
say it's not on the plan, if it's not on the plan, then it doesn't, I mean, we've had this discussion where we say if we approve the lines, we're approving the absence of other lines. I mean, if we're saying that, and that is, I think that's implicit in our approval, but maybe there's a specific carve out to, we are specifically not opining on the presence of underground streams, or on that I could maybe see. But in other words, specifically carve out, but to say that we think the lines that exist, but we're not, but we're free to say that other lines, that we're free to find other wetlands. I just don't think that makes sense.
The intent of this ANRAD was for the commission to approve the outermost wetland resource areas, whether they be BVW or bank. We also have riverfront area on the site. So that's the intent. You can acknowledge that there may be interior resource areas like bank of intermittent stream, interior of the BVW system. We know that's the case, in particular for that first system at the bottom of that huge slope. So I guess that's.
Would that encompass what your concerns are? Yeah. I just want to say, in fairness to you, Andrew, we have to say that we just can't say that we're free to find free to find resource areas. Your point is that in fairness to us, we want to be able to, if we have specific concerns like the presence of underground streams, then we ought to be able to.
Underground streams are not jurisdictional.
Right.
The Wetlands Protection Act, that's considered groundwater, for example. So that's not something that would be applicable in this case.
Correct. And that's why I brought that up as potential source of water coming in. It could be springs or underground streams.
Well, I guess what I'm getting at is, if we're trying to approve an ANRAD, what is it that we are I mean, all the things that we're talking about are things that are going to come into play when a project is proposed.
We're approving the resources that were presented to us.
And they seem like you've done a fair job of doing it.
We were really only presented BVW.
Well, that's right.
And bank and riverfront.
No, we weren't.
Andrew, you said that you would be okay with us carving out, with us doing a carve out about interior, some interior resources.
Yeah, I
I
think
would be-
that's the important point to make. It's additional wetland systems within already flagged wetland systems. So we've already covered the outermost point of all the wetland systems on site. I think Andrea's point was just there might be interior wetland systems within those outer flags, but we've covered those outermost flags throughout the site, right? Andrea?
Okay, then I would
All
like
of
to,
those systems are covered.
then obviously if we did this, we would put that caveat in the, that is what we're approving and what we are not approving is that. I think that would be fair. Jim, what else should we be doing? I guess I want to address your concern, but if your concern is there's things that are non-jurisdictional that are going to have an impact, I don't know how that translates into it, whether we should approve or not approve the ANRAD.
No, I'm not saying that we wouldn't approve it. I'm just trying to clarify it so that if something's found that wasn't presented, we can, we have the ability to deal with it. I think we have to approve it. But like
Jimmy, kind of asked if something is found that is outside of the the exterior that Andrea and Michelle were just saying. So they talked about things that are already contained within it. So if other things are contained outside.
Yeah, I know that, but you know what? Usually, from what I've known, is that the first thing you do is identify all your resource areas, not just the outer or inner ones.
Whether they're
Because they all have different values, so they provide different functions. But we don't have that here. We have what they're saying is the further furthermost one.
Yeah, outermost ones, and I think it's if by agreement we do
I'm
that,
fine. I'm fine with that. That's fine. I just want to be able to write something in there that says basically that we've identified, we agree with the resources that were presented to us. I just don't know, when someone reads that, he says, well, which ones were those? I don't know. You got to go out there and look for them.
Well, what do you mean? It's everything identified on the plan.
Oh, that's right. We agree. We agree with what's
Did
identified.
you look at those plans?
Yes.
Can you read them?
They're not.
You got to zoom in on them.
I can't even see them. I asked for a full-size plan and we never got it.
Well, we're getting a revised plan anyways.
Well, that's my position. I don't care what you want to do. I do think that that wet area, I think it could be the start of a stream, start of a perennial stream. And I think it's on the uphill side of where we saw those streams of debris where the water had flown into the depression.
Jim,
I don't understand why those couldn't be a bank and a.
Well, is your question or request that you want the interior ones shown too, even if they're totally contained within the exterior ones?
No, I don't care what you do. I'm just pointing out my own concerns. That's all. When I think about it, this is what I'm thinking about. And I have to say, I mean, you're probably right. All this stuff will get addressed, but what I see is, the 66 acres going to be worked on and manipulated, and that's a lot of rain area. That water's going somewhere. It's not going down two little streams of leaves that you see on the ground. So, and when they go ahead to design their project, they need to design their project so that the drainage areas match the discharge points, so that we don't disrupt the system.
Right.
That's what I'm looking ahead at in my mind.
And you want to telegraph that in the ANRAD? I mean, in our approval?
No, I just.
I don't know.
I just want to. All I want to say is I guess I want to say that I agree with the lines as presented.
Right.
I just wish we could mark it on the drawing and say this was bank, this was, whatever, this was whatever the resource was.
Well, there is some bank identified on the plan.
Well, I mean, should be all bank that's there, but.
I will just like to add in the wetland report that was submitted with the ANRAD, we do describe, when we describe the BVW, for example, at the bottom of that big hillside fill slope near athletic fields, we do convey that BVW borders on an intermittent stream channel. So we are describing it qualitatively, so we are not delineating the inside channel. So the bank. So
Right.
and I do describe the BVW, I think it's 8 in the rear of the school. And I do describe it borders on the Saugus River. So, you know, it is noted in, but it's not, again, it's not the interior resource areas that were delineated. So if that helps in understand, you know,
Yeah,
a
okay,
picture of things.
yeah.
And just a quick, I did do a quick stream stats of at June Circle at the culvert, just to screen it to see if it meets the minimum watershed size to be considered a perennial stream.
Yeah.
It's a very small watershed area of 0.0368 square miles. So it has to, there's a couple of thresholds that you need to meet.
Right, I know.
So it's according to this, you know, at the first pass of it, it's
Right,
it's small.
right. I know it's small, but again, it's all ledge up there. Could be going anywhere.
They take that into consideration, the subsoil
Yeah,
or the geology, really.
okay.
Can I ask a quick one?
Sure.
Andrea, when you do the stream stats and it delineates the catchment for you, does it include any drainage pipes that might be brought over from a different area? So for instance, I was just looking at the drain plan and it looks like there's some catch basins and they collect from, what is this name of it? Farm Street, there's one in Farm Street, and then there's one, sorry, I think it says something that ends with wood, doesn't wood or something. And it's over there, and then they come together, connect, pick up the catch basins at June Circle, and then get put in. I just wondering, like, is that something that Stream Stats takes into account, or is it just done by topography?
It is in an urban setting, you have to be careful and then do a reality check. So it's based on watershed size. A lot of times you presume that the drainage infrastructure kind of fits in within cross watershed areas. Sometimes that does happen. So you always need to give a reality check when it has piping in there. But the point that I took it at was right at that culvert. So there could be other things downstream.
Right, okay.
That is feeding it from a drainage, stormwater drainage.
Yes, those were all downstream. I was just curious when they ran that, if that would be something that it included.
I could run it for a point further downstream and see what that does, but for our purposes, we don't need to consider that.
Okay, thank you.
Excuse me, Rebecca, I think that wood you were talking about might have been pheasant wood.
Yes, I think you're right.
Yeah.
It
Because
got
there is a large culvert on the other side across from June Circle near Old Nahat Road, and it all comes there. And somewhere along the line, it crosses over into June Circle somewhere, and I believe it connects down to the end of the cul-de-sac. And a lot of times that overflows, and we get water coming down both sides of June Circle, coming down the street like rushing streams.
Right.
Oh.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, do we have anything else? Okay, we ready to close?
Yeah.
I move to close the public hearing.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, Ken,
Yes.
Jimmy,
Yeah,
Teresa,
Yes.
Silvana,
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Okay, and I vote to close. Okay. Let's see. We will be getting a new drawing. That's already been agreed to. Andrea, can we make sure that it's either scaled in a way or blown up enough where we can read the contours and everything else on it?
Yeah, we can break that out for you.
Oh, Michelle, please.
Yep, a smaller scale, yep.
Andrea, is it possible that I could get a drawing too?
We'll submit it to the town with a PDF, and let's see, if you give us your email address, that's the best way. We can email it to you.
Sure. You want it now?
If you're willing, sure.
Yeah, it's Seisan, SEISAN 78 @hotmail.com.
SEISAN 78 @hotmail. Okay,
Correct. Thank you.
sure.
All right, so I guess the next step would be to approve the ANRAD. So is there a motion?
Can we put the conditions, can we put in the conditions that, Michelle, you did a pretty good job of explaining what we are approving and what we are not about the interior. That these are the bordering, the exterior lines, but not necessarily, we are not,
Yeah, I think, the outermost limits of the wetland systems are delineated. There may be inner wetland systems not shown, but that outermost boundary is what we're seeking approval for.
and that we are not opining on the existence or on non-existence. Can we say that? I mean, I just want to say what I want to be able to say. In fairness, you're entitled to finality on the exterior, but you can't stop us if we find some, that it's fair game to identify interior. I want that in the ANRAD.
Yeah, I think that's fair, as long as that interior language is added. Yeah, like we're not saying there could be another wetland system totally separate that hasn't been identified. Those have all been covered, but there might be interior. Yep, I think that's a fair.
Okay.
Rebecca, do you have that?
And would it, I'm sorry to be,
A lawyer?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to be fussy about this, but it's like the pitch and catch, us saying that we are not opining on that. The flip side of that is that the drawing is not intended to identify, the interior thing. In other words, you're saying what you're not doing, and we're saying that we're not, do you know what I'm saying?
No. Yeah, so the drawing is just showing the outermost limit.
Well, it's both sides. We're saying that we're not opining on it, and you're saying that you are not intending to identify interior, things. And we're saying
They exist.
that's why
If they
that
exist,
provides,
right.
and that provides us a basis for saying that we're not opining on the very things that you have not attempted to identify.
So what do you want the condition to say, Peter?
Well, no, I'm asking whether the plan could say, in other words, whether the same thing could be said both in the plan and in the condition, so that they two of them bookend each other. You're saying you didn't identify, that this is not intended to be a comprehensive identification of the interior, and us saying that because it's not intended to be a comprehensive identification of the interior, we're not opining on the non-existent, we're not opining on the presence or absence of the interior. That's all I'm getting at.
Yeah,
You guys
so-
can disagree. Maybe now you're thinking maybe I'm getting a little. I just thought the two of them should match. That's all. We're not just saying that. And you guys say, well, that I just.
Yeah, Andrea, would that be fair? Is that something you've seen before, where like a note was added to the plan that interior wetland systems are not shown or were not delineated? Is that something we could?
Yeah, I think that would be a fine note to say. We'll say that some in,
Maybe you say we're not comprehensively or not. I don't mind you saying that it's not like you did nothing. I understand
Yeah.
that. Is that it's not intended to be a complete analysis of the interior.
yeah. We can add a note that says, outermost boundary of wetland resources were identified. Interior boundaries, if present, were not delineated, nor are they depicted on the plan.
That's perfect. And you've done exactly
Is
what.
it-
And then, okay, thank you. And then we don't have to have a condition, I guess. If you do that, then I think we need a, right?
And is it clear what interior means in that context?
Yeah, I mean, it's mostly like, yeah, in this case, the interior would be bank.
Right, no, I know what it means right now. Don't get me wrong.
We're trying to be fair to each other.
Okay.
I mean that totally.
I think we need a few more lawyers on the commission.
Are you both lawyers?
Yes,
Peter
Pete
and
and I are lawyers, yes.
You're not shocked, are you?
Can't tell.
Oh, no,
Between the
Teresa,
two of them, we're lucky we make it through a hearing.
These are billable hours or something.
No wonder my mind turned off after a while.
even your cat was starting to get a little agitated.
That's true.
I'm ready to slam the gavel.
And I guess like the one last thing are, we have identified IVWs, isolated vegetated wetlands, that we documented are not isolated land subject to flooding. So we would want confirmation of that, and that they are therefore not jurisdictional under the Wetlands Protection Act. So that
Can we ask you to show that on the plan though?
we did in terms of, we label them as IVW and we don't show a buffer zone around them.
Right, and you could show IVW not jurisdiction. I mean,
Yeah, we can call it not jurisdictional.
So if you put that on the plan and we approve it, then we're stuck with that, and that's fine, and that's fair.
Okay.
I feel like we cleared up a lot of things here.
You can sleep well tonight.
Ah. So, Rebecca,
Are you trying to get rid of me? You don't want me at these meetings anymore?
No, Bob, you bring up good points. Hey, listen, Bob, you got, I don't know. I think you brought up things in the interior, and I think that it's reflected in this decision. So I think you should feel good about it.
I think it's important to clarify it.
I think it was wise that you did that.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I was at a meeting yesterday at Northeast, and they had the whole team talking about this non-proposal construction building that somehow exists in the cloud. And the architect towards the end, the newest architect, he was looking at me, and he says, and somebody mentioned about it's coming before the Conservation Committee tomorrow night. And what was the meeting? Yeah, the meeting was yesterday. Oh, maybe all the days run into each other. And he looked at me, he says, geez, I hope you'll approve it. And I said to myself, he must think I'm on a committee for some reason. I don't know why or where he ever got that idea. So I just kind of smiled at him, and that was about it. I thought it was kind of interesting. And I have no intentions on being on a committee, put it that way. You guys do a lot of work, yeah.
Thank you.
We got a site walk next weekend. You're welcome to.
I was afraid to mention that because I said I might get invited on a couple more.
it won't be 2.5 hours. Hey, we made it.
Donuts.
Did you see we were in the item?
Yeah,
Yes, I did. Oh, I had a question about that. How did Mark get that information?
He probably watched the Zoom. Did he play the recording back, or could he have been?
No, he got a lot of his information from the sidewalk.
Oh,
And he actually mentioned on there that the Conservation Committee appeared to be satisfied that the wetland performed was satisfactory. So maybe he's a mind reader.
Hmm.
So Rebecca, you have what you need, right?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
You have what you need to write up the,
Yeah, I can replay the Zoom.
no, well, you could do that, it's true.
I do. I have it, yes.
The only other request I'd like you to take a look at is those pictures I did drop off. If you could just take a look at them, just to get an idea of the issues that I did bring up.
Did you drop them with the person at the front desk?
Yeah, she did. She said she thought somebody would be coming in today. So maybe they're still at the front desk.
Yeah, I mean, I was in today. I didn't have anything.
No, they said they were gonna bring them up. I mean, I was there early in the morning because I had a meeting to go to at 9, so it was about 8:30 when I dropped them off.
Okay.
She
I
said
didn't
no.
yet, but when I get there, I'll be back in on Tuesday, so I'll look for them and I'll track them
Yeah,
down.
just so you'll get an idea of, as I mentioned, that's the worst case scenario with that issue.
Okay, sure.
Try to get the, who's responsible and kind of getting this thing fixed, and who knows, maybe someday we'll get the road fixed too.
All right, so we already closed, and now we need to vote on the NRAD. So would somebody like to make a motion to approve the NRAD
As modified?
as
Right.
modified?
Modified, and with the conditions that we discussed.
Yes.
yeah, subject to getting to the plan being revised to satisfactorily disclose what, to include the language that we discussed. Well, I just want to see it. That's
No, I know, but
Is that the motion, Peter?
motion. Yes,
that's a lawyer standing there now.
that's my
All right.
motion. Yes.
Do we have a second?
I'll second. I'd love to second that one.
Okay, just don't try repeating it. All right,
I can't do that.
all in favor, Ken,
Yes.
Jimmy,
Yes.
Silvana,
Yes.
Teresa,
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Okay,
Thanks. I appreciate the process and everyone's input. It's been good.
Thank you, Andrea.
thank you, Andrea and
Take
Michelle.
care.
Thank you.
But
Have a good
thank
night.
you
Bye-bye.
for your input was valuable here as well.
Yes, Bob.
Thank you. Take
All
care.
right. I believe we've covered all old business and new business, unless Rebecca or Judy have anything else they'd like to bring up.
I'm all set.
I'll just send you guys lots of emails.
Yeah, how are we gonna get these signed?
Oh, look at, we're gonna do.
Town
something
hall's
about
open till 4:30 now. There's no excuse.
It's still tough for me, I'll tell you.
I'll bring it to your house, Bob
Okay, that'll work.
and Ken.
All right, so with no further old or new business, then I'll take a motion to close tonight's meeting.
Can I second that? Can I second that?
And you can second all you want, but we can't count it. So is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
No second.
Okay, Ken,
Yes.
Jimmy,
Yes.
Silvana,
Yes.
Teresa,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
and I vote to adjourn. Good night, everybody. Have a nice long weekend, hopefully.
Yeah.
And we have a site walk. It'll be from Saturday. That'll probably be the next time we actually see each other.
Okay,
Hey,
good night.
thanks a lot. I learned a lot.
Good night. Thank you all.
All right,
Good night.
Night.
good night, everybody.